Not only is Immortal Technique here, but he's brought a motherfucker so cool that he's wearing a fanny pack.
Bobby Bang Bang!
Bobby Bang Bang, independent of my love for the fanny pack, this dude he's out there all completely on his own, on the natch, with true love for the fanny pack. Much respect. Not only am I bringing back the fanny pack, I just started selling them. So I sell a higherprimate.com fanny pack. It's a quality roots fanny pack. Dice Clay was in, and he had the dopest fanny pack, this sweet leather fanny pack. And it was so nice.
Leather fanny pack?
I'm on to something good. See?
Strong. It was made by Roots, you know, that company that makes bags. It's like a dope fanny pack. And I was like, where'd you get that one? I was jealous because all my other ones were functional but disgusting. But this was like, it was actually fashionable. I was like, I can bring it back with Roots. So I contacted Roots and had them print up the Higher Primate logo on a fanny pack. So boom. Not just T-shirts, but now fanny packs. A motherfucker's branching out.
Oh, see, there it is.
Yo, it's hard to see the logo, but it's a monkey with like a
whoever coined the term fanny pack really fucked everybody.
See, that's
you know what I mean. If it had been like survival pack, every dude would have one. Like, oh, dude, I got my new survival pack. It's not a man purse. It's a survival pack. No, dude, it's a fanny pack.
I don't mind saying it.
Put it on, lie down.
It's true strength. That you're not worried about the definitions of others.
Well, let me tell you,
silly
man,
word.
These guys have been giving me a hard time during this tour because I'm rocking a fanny pack.
Rocket strong.
No, not me. It was my idea.
I would rock that one.
Rocket strong.
I like that survival pack.
You know, it's all in the marketing.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's your cock shield. So I keep myself. If an asteroid comes from the sky, it'll hit my fanny pack before it hits my dick. And hopefully it'll deflect.
Listen, if something's falling out of the atmosphere, it's gonna burn
never
through.
know. You would say
that fanny pack and your cock and your leg and the shit behind you.
Today's cell phones are very durable, my friend. I think you're incorrect. I think you're out of line. You've done no studies. Yeah, there's some fucking people that have survived, actually, rocks falling from the sky and hitting them. Strange enough, a lady got hit in the arm recently. It was like, it went through her house and, like, hit her arm.
All right.
Like, you can get grazed.
Yeah, her arm. Come on. I mean, she didn't catch a dome shot, you know what I mean? That would have been some whole other shit, you know?
Yeah, well, most likely you're going to die if you get hit by something that falls from the sky.
The Donnie Darko jet falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
Engine.
Most likely. If something falls from the sky, you're fucked. But if it doesn't and it hits your higher primate fanny pack, you might survive, son. You might get through that shit alive.
Survival
you might feel
pack.
better.
Survival pack.
Survival pack.
Indeed. Survival pack just sounds too phony, though.
Nah, you got to put survival pack, and then you got to put like the Joe Rogan cock shield edition with like just like the metal plate.
I think it should just be implied.
Like a metal plate on the top of the.
I don't think I should.
The dude from Cameo, son.
CS.
I don't think I should sell it.
You should have a hole in it so you can play with your dick while you're just like getting your car keys.
So like Diner, like the movie Diner.
Yeah.
Remember when he got that girl, Mickey Rourke got that girl to touch his dick by putting it through the popcorn?
Oh, that's an old school trick right there.
Yeah. That might have been invented in that movie though. Yeah. I'm not sure. Probably not. When you think about all the perverts in the world, that shit's probably old. Really old.
Jesus Christ.
Anyway, higherprimate.com. That's the
it's dash
shit.
Primate also.
It's both now.
Oh, it is? Oh, cool.
Now it's actually just higherprimate.com too. I bought that.
Sweet.
Anyway, we're sponsored by 1-800-Flowers.com because it's almost Valentine's Day, sweeties.
Friday.
Valentine's Day is one of those ones when, especially if you're just getting into a chick, man, you got to respect that day.
Yeah.
Birthdays and that one. You can blow off Easter. You don't have to say Happy Easter. But like this shit, Valentine's Day, this is a big one, boys.
Yo, I did the best thing.
Bribery.
I did the best thing ever for Valentine's Day. My son is born on Valentine's Day.
So that's cool. That's
I got
awesome.
a pass for the rest of my life. Like, you got the best gift I could ever give you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So
nothing
If
else.
your son wasn't born, go to 1-800.
That's it.
If that wasn't the case, go to 1-800-Flowers.com. The podcast sponsor of 1-800-Flowers.com. They have right now a very special offer of 2 dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99. 24 delicious and beautiful roses for just $29.99. You can't beat that anywhere. And if you missed the deadline, 1-800-Flowers still has other great offers, but you need to order now. This is your last chance to get it for Valentine's Day. 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers is the only one that I trust. We use 1-800-Flowers. Brian, in fact, just recently used 1-800-Flowers with great results.
Yeah, it was. I even did the same day delivery. I got off there.
An excellent move.
Yeah.
Show spontaneity.
Yep.
Girls like that. Show a man who takes action and either goes to 1-800-Flowers.com or you can call 1-800-Flowers. Either way, you use the code word JRE. If you go to 1-800-Flowers.com, click on the radio microphone in the upper right-hand corner and enter JRE. That's 1-800-Flowers.com, enter JRE, or call Wait on 1-800-Flowers and mention JRE. And get yourself some beautiful roses.
This one comes with a key that she could wear as a necklace later.
For what? For her chastity belt?
How dare you? No. Once the roses are the key to her heart, sir.
Yeah.
Spare me your piety. Get the fuck out of here.
How rude.
I know where I am.
1-800-Flowers.com.
I know whose fucking office I'm in.
How dare you?
Fuck out of here. Yeah.
That's 1-800-Flowers.com.
Joe, how'd you know the name of it? Was that just a guess?
What?
That you knew the name of the actual bouquet is called Key to My Heart?
It's just a guess. It's so obvious. There's a key. There's beautiful flowers. That's the key to the woman's heart.
Oh, that's the actual name, son? Yo, you are amazing. I was a fan already, but now I'm amazed.
That's not a freestyle.
No, it's total freestyle. That was a luck.
That's
I mean, it was total luck.
Yeah, he doesn't know
Haymaker?
that.
I had no idea what that was the
Haymaker.
name of it. That was total luck.
Holy shit.
Yep.
Look, it's got a key. It's a bouquet. I mean, what the fuck else is it?
Like,
That's what it's going to be called.
trick guys into thinking that you were Penthouse Pet of the Month.
Listen, man, this ain't hard. It's key. Only you would know about that. Most guys would not know that Penthouse Pets carry keys around their necks. Anyway, our other sponsor is LegalZoom.com, which Brian will most likely one day need.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
LegalZoom.com, not going to get you out of any of that kind of trouble, but what it can do is deal with any legal bullshit that you would normally have to go to a lawyer for and wait in line and pay a lot of money. Deal with it much cheaper, much easier, and with way less hassle. Things like starting a business or incorporating, forming an LLC, you could do that at just $99. You can get a last will for $69, a living trust, power of attorney, all that kind of shit. LegalZoom can get all that done for you. And if you freak out, if you're in the middle of it and you're like, fuck, this is not legal, LegalZoom will connect you to a third-party independent attorney. So if you do panic, they will connect you with an attorney that's not connected to them. So, well, connected in the fact that they connect you. You know what the fuck I'm saying. Someone objective.
Is the call center here in like America, or is it like somewhere in like Indonesia, like a Thai attorney?
You listen. I would assume they would get you one in your area. If you live in Indonesia, you're gonna get a fucking Indonesian attorney.
No, I could just imagine the call center being in like Mongolia or some shit. Like, according to our tribal law, like the two of you have to meet and fight with like a yak bone.
I don't think so. I think it has to be American. And now, for a special discount for listening to this podcast, enter the code word Rogan in the referral box at checkout for more savings. LegalZoom is not a law firm, but they can connect you with a third-party attorney and provide you with self-help services. This is what Brian used to incorporate Death Squad. It's what Aubrey used for On It. LegalZoom is a way that you can get a lot of really important legal shit done without actually having to go to a lawyer. What's funny about that?
No, I'm just looking at this divorce. This chick's like, I am so ready to get some more dick.
Oh, yeah. Look at that. That's exactly what she's saying. Perfect picture. Because she's a catch. If you just found, if you were like, so what's your situation? Well, just getting divorced right now, unfortunately. You mean, fortunately, pow! Cha-pow! I'll be nice to you.
$2.99.
Let's kiss.
$2.99
Some guy
divorce.
fucked up and look what he left behind. Ooh,
$2.99. Something's got to be
$2.99. No, nothing wrong.
Maybe
Nothing
she's
wrong.
in a wheelchair.
$2.99.
No, I mean a beautiful woman.
Yeah, maybe she's in a wheelchair.
Maybe somebody didn't fuck her correctly. How about that?
$2.99.
Come on, man. There's a lot of dudes out there that don't fuck their girlfriend correctly.
It's true.
Shit goes wrong. You forget. You start getting lazy, just going for the titty grab, and then right into sticking it in.
And then some. If I told you, you're gonna handle your business. Somebody else will.
Well, maybe it's
Somebody's
just a
gonna put in
guy
work
that
for hours, and then
she talks to at the gym, and he's who's just friendly. He didn't even try to get my phone number. I'd see him at the gym.
God, yo,
he was
that's
just
always the
friendly.
worst.
It was like finally a guy that doesn't have an agenda. Divorce, $2.99. Next, name change, $139. That's coming next, sweetie.
Dude, we should change
You
our
want
name.
to change your
Name
name.
change.
There's too much weird shit on the internet about your real name, hooker. It's time to change. Change that name. Switch up your Google search results. LegalZoom.com. Use the code word Rogan. Save yourself some money.
Oh, wait, green card. Well, please
Get a
do.
green card?
That's
You can get a
not-
green card?
You can get a green card
Son,
in
for
MacArthur Park.
$5.95, dog.
They should have had a hot chick.
I don't know.
That's
dude.
well,
I don't
they're
know.
not saying
I
that
don't
you're
know
going to
about
get a
that.
green card. By
I don't know
the way.
about that.
That's one thing that's real important. If you're actually going through the paperwork already, yeah, maybe LegalZoom can help you out. But if you just snuck under a fucking fence from Mexico and you're like,
well, why does it gotta be
scrape
Mexico,
together
though?
500? Because that's the
Why does
closest shit. That's the only place to sneak under a fence. Come on, man.
But it
Use your
doesn't
head.
mean he's got to be Mexican.
You
though.
can't sneak. You could be. You're right. It could be Afghani. It could
I
be.
mean, yo, they
Guatemala-
no, no,
Guatemala.
they've
be
been,
anywhere.
they've been
Salvador.
catching a lot of people that are not Mexican crossing to the Mexican border, bro.
I'm sure. I would imagine. So they think
Not
it's a
that I would
porous
know,
entry.
but I've been watching the news lately.
Our last sponsor, Onnit.com, ONNIT. Since Aubrey Marcus was on the podcast yesterday, we talked a lot about Onnit. I will give you an abbreviated podcast sponsor. This is a human optimism. Is that when you say un? Sometimes you're supposed to say N, A-N, and it seems like you should say but really it's supposed to be N. Like, I forget. There's a few examples of that where it's the correct grammar is actually N, and I sometimes pretend I'm smart and try to use it the right way, and I fuck it up. Onnit.com, ONNIT, a human optimization website. We sell all sorts of strength and conditioning equipment, supplements both for athletic activities and also for mood and cognition and even for your immune system. Onnit.com, ONNIT. Use the code word Rogan. Save 10% off any and all supplements. All right, Immortal Technique is here. Let's get cracking.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen, with the new posse, Immortal Technique. The only guy, this is posted on my message board yesterday. This is the only guy that brought a posse to the podcast and they didn't suck.
Oh, thank you, man.
Because usually when you get posses, you get you'll have like one cool dude and his friends who are annoying.
Right.
You know, that shit happens.
Nah, we're all soldiers here, man.
Yeah.
All my people's holding down. This is my brother. This is my brother Chino XL,
Chino.
My man.
and that is my dude Bobby Bowdit. It was
Bobby.
It was just his birthday, so he's still recovering. But
But
we had a
boom.
wonderful time.
It's hard being on the road with these two guys.
I'm sure. Especially because Bobby rocks a fanny pack. Like a soldier.
That's right, and
Bobby.
I'm proud. You'd be surprised how many wonders the fanny pack does for me.
Hey, man, it's great at the airport. Clip, drop it in that bag, pick it up at the other side. Boom. Done.
Survival pack.
Survival pack is
Survival
too
pack.
pretentious. Surviving what? How long are you going to survive? What do you got? Another
Survive
50
in the
years
gym.
left in you? Come on, man. You ain't surviving shit. No one's surviving shit. It's maybe the get and buy pack.
Oh,
maybe the
God.
I exist now pack.
Yeah, you know what? It really should be called a groupie pack because you could just flip it around and keep all your personal items and never leaves your.
Oh, Jesus Christ. You're
Yeah.
incriminating yourself.
I don't
You're
know,
not
really.
incriminating me or anybody else.
Nope,
in
it's
this
just
room.
him.
I don't know what you meant by that, so we're just going to let that slide.
All the men in the room said,
You're confusing the fuck out of me with that. You got a little cocky on air. That's what happened there,
nah.
son. You forgot where you were.
It's a survival pack. It's part of the survival pack. It works.
Survival. Dun dun. That's like a douchey word, though, right? Like survival. Like, you know, like survival. Survivor Man is cool, but like survival training. We're going through survival training. Like, oh, come on, man. What are you doing? Have you find the
survival-
people? Or
But I mean, look, there are people who really do that type. Like my friend told me that there was some ex-military dude that he like trains executives on like this survival like vacation weekend, and it's basically like for people that want to feel like they did something important. So he take them out to like this like area in the countryside. They run a bunch of obstacles and they get them in shape for like, you know, a week or two and then bust their ass. And then they call it like survival training. But that's obviously not like real survival training. Survival, I guess you have to jump out of like a parachute out of a fucking plane into like a wilderness area and then meet someone at a certain place like 2 weeks later. Like, all right, go to like LZ1, like, you know, 15 miles away through like Wolf dens and mountain ranges, forest, and who the fuck else knows? You know, you just can't take the 405 there. You gotta walk, motherfucker. That's survival training.
They could be a real show like that, where they took a guy and just dropped him off Hunger Games style in the middle of the woods. I'm kind of surprised they haven't done that yet.
That'd be kind of very interesting. I would watch.
But I mean, they like in Survivor, they do go and they have to like get food and they do shit like that. But it's very different than like taking one person and like telling them that they have to make it across a forest and get to another side.
You know, I never really watched that show too often. Were their lives ever really in danger?
That's the
on
point.
Survivor?
That's the point.
Ever?
It's always endurance, really, more than survival, because you know that there's a way out. Let's take somebody who didn't even know this was going to happen at all and drop them there.
Yeah. Well, those people that are on that show,
Fucking lawsuit.
you know, like when you see that everybody gets by okay and everybody's okay and you know they're not in danger because it's television. No, they're in danger. If you're in Borneo or one of those places where they film Survivor Man or Survivor rather, you're in danger. You're fucking for sure in danger. There's a lot of shit out there. Like just because there's a bunch of cameras out there doesn't mean they're going to keep you safe. Like when we did Fear Factor, there was a lot of times we just got lucky. Like nobody got hurt, but it's just because we got lucky.
Like a rattlesnake?
No, like bulls. They made people ride bulls.
All right, that's just ridiculous.
Dude, they had a 90-pound girl. I say they. I'm distancing myself from the show. Clearly. Note how I said
like
they?
he wasn't in there. Like,
I
hey,
wasn't even
put that
telling
little
her to
bitch
do
on
it.
top of the bull.
If it was happening today, I swear to God, I would tell them not to do it. I would tell the girl not to do it. 100%. Like there was a guy that was like a crazy daredevil dude. I would have said, you know, hey man, people have done it. I know Donald Cerrone. Donald Cerrone rides bulls. The crazy fuck. But for most people, it's a hair-raising proposition. But for this little 98-pound girl, there's no way she's going to be able to hang on. And these guys who were the stunt guys were like, don't worry about it. These are stunt bulls. They're less aggressive. They're stunt bulls.
Stunt bull.
Yeah, but I'm like, the bull doesn't know it's a fucking stunt bull. To the bull, he's a bull. There's no stunt bulls in the bull world. They don't have like, well, you know, I'm just a stunt, you know me, stunt
I'm
bull.
not gonna tear your ass up. You know what I mean? That's my brother over there.
Gotta worry about them other dudes. You know, I'm gonna show you who's boss, and then I won't stomp on your head. No, they'll stomp on your fucking head. They'll kick you in the face. We just got lucky. So like Survivor Man, that's real shit. Like there's nothing fake about that show. But that's when that dude exists by himself. And you know, he'll get to like a certain location. They'll pick him up like in 5 days. Right. He even does them 10 days sometimes.
Right. But that's the guy that carries his own camera, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, okay. That is 100% legit. He's in danger. He's in danger every show.
I think I seen him super dehydrated one time. It was really, really bad.
That motherfucker was in lion territory.
The
Survivor Man.
The Survivor Man or the Survivor the show?
Survivor Man.
It's one guy.
Well, I was making the comparison between the two of them. Like that Survivor show, they're still in danger. You're still in danger. You're doing a bunch of dangerous shit. You're doing wild, aggressive shit. But no, you know, no more danger than anybody would be if you were camping. Right. You know, when you're camping, you're doing dangerous shit.
It'd be different if it was like Survivor Basra or like Survivor Mogadishu.
No, he does that though.
Fucking crazy.
I mean, Survivor Man.
Survivor
does.
Man probably does shit like that.
That dude went to Africa and he slept a night in Africa in this area where lions live with a hot air balloon. And his idea was, the idea for the show was, if you were in a hot air balloon and it ran out of gas and it fell somewhere, like or the balloon got punctured or some shit and it fell somewhere, and you were trapped, how would you get by? How would you get out of it? So this guy went to fucking Africa, and that was all he had for shelter, was the basket that this supposed hot air balloon had, and then the flamethrower to make the balloon inflate and go up. You know, they hit that the fire comes up, and the heat is what makes the balloon rise, and they drop it off when they want it to fall. Well, he had that as well, and he was using that to keep the lions away, blowing fire at them, because when he would set it up on the ground, it was like a flamethrower. Right. Because it's when it's underneath the balloon, it's blowing this fire up into the inflated balloon. But when it's on the ground, he's just shooting it at the lions.
And it's just him and one camera. It's just him and the camera.
Him and a camera and some fucking lions, and you hear in the background, you hear like,
oh, Jesus.
Yeah, that's
crazy. You know, but you know how that show's gonna end, right? It's just gonna end with like a still shot of like him with fucking camera on the ground and people picking out his innards.
Man.
Well, yeah, I think what they do is they know where he is by GPS location, and I guess he probably has a satellite phone. Like if everything went terribly wrong and he had to call, like if he breaks his leg or something like that, he'll just die. I mean, he has to get medical help, so They must have some sort of a plan, but his life is in danger every step of the way.
Oh, I mean, when you see people that swim with sharks, for example, that's the part that I say, okay, I did that with like baby sharks and with like sand sharks. They have something at the Mall of America. I went back with like my ex-girlfriend years and years and years ago. It was cool, but when I see people who swim with like 10-foot sharks, 12-foot sharks, in like the wild, where the shark doesn't know that you're a filmmaker. It doesn't have any idea that this is for discovery or anything else.
It's not a stunt shark.
Right. Yeah. It's not a stunt shark.
And they never will. They don't understand anything. All they know is what's in front of them, eat. Eat what's in front of them. We eat what they're used to eating. What they're used to eating.
There are some people that have, I don't know what it is, I don't know what they're doing, but they manage to not get killed.
I think if you get into the water, a shark doesn't see you as prey as much as it sees you if you're on the top of the water. I think the top of the water is a big danger because people look like seals. That's one thing. When you're down in the water, I think you're more of a weird curiosity.
You look like a swimming monkey in the water, and oh, good, I get a snack.
It's hard to figure out probably what the fuck you are. I think animals that are that stupid, they just sort of get by doing the same shit over and over and over again. And for sharks, it's like look for seals, boom. Look for seals, boom. Look for seals. Whoa, what the fuck is this? Surfboard.
This tastes terrible. This tastes like Arby's. Get this fucking guy out of my mouth.
But if you look at them, man, you look at their black dead eyes, and you look at their body is just designed to just chew. There's not a lot of thinking going on.
We had this conversation earlier about what it means to be a hunter. But wouldn't it be hunting really if you were like in a rowboat with like a harpoon going after one of them and not like, in like a giant vessel shooting at them with a high-powered rifle?
Well, if you were in a little boat, you're going to die. You're not going to beat a great white shark with a harpoon.
All right, we're talking about, you want to get extreme right now. I don't mean like
any
great
kind
white.
Of shark.
No,
a shark that's big.
Like a tiger shark.
I guess maybe like a 6-footer if you're really good with a spear.
You gotta get like 4 or 5 of them.
But if he flips you in the water, man, most likely you're fucked.
I just
depends
think
on what kind of boat you're on.
If you're in their element, I think they got an advantage.
That's a cheating thing anyway. If you're in a boat, you're cheating.
If you have anything, if you have anything, it's actually cheating. They're looking at you like drop all those weapons and just go flesh to flesh.
Yeah, you got no chance.
But we don't have teeth like y'all niggas.
But we do have hands.
Yeah, that doesn't
that
help.
they're gonna eat.
The shark skin though is when you feel it. When you rub it one way, it's like completely rough and it'll cut your skin. And then when you go from back to front, it's completely, absolutely silky smooth. When we were little kids, we had like a dissection program, and the last thing that we did was like 3rd grade or something. But they cut open a shark and we had to take its kids out, like its children. And when you felt the shark, they said, watch. And the science teacher rubbed his hand, nose to the back, and his hand was cut open. And he said that what the normal sharks do is they just swim through a school of fish, and since their skin's built like that, whatever they touch, they cut. And then on the second loop around, they can smell the blood, or they can see one of the fishes that they've cut and go through it. But if you touch a shark, normal shark, from like, back to front, it's totally silky smooth. Boom.
Wow, that's weird. Why would it be silky smooth that way? That seems strange. Like, what benefit would that be?
It's just like a jagged sort of thing. I have no idea.
I wonder if they can pull it in and pull it out,
Maybe. There must be some mechanism. All I know is that, hey, man, I don't want to get rubbed up on by them. Fuck. I don't want them to pull anything in or pull anything out on me.
I ain't getting in the water with sharks, plain simple. I mean, come.
There's a big issue now in Australia, because they're culling the sharks. They're killing a lot of great whites because they've had so many people die recently. They're just like, enough is enough. Too many people are getting attacked by sharks. They're like, we got to kill some of these fucking sharks. And a lot of people think it's a bad idea. Those people are assholes. Fucking crazy assholes. No, it's not a bad idea. Are the sharks killing people? Yeah. Well, it is their water. Wrong. Our planet. Suck it. If there's a bunch of sharks out there that are killing people, it's time to start killing sharks. Wow. Period. Anybody who wants to argue is fucking anti-American.
And what if they...
I don't care if it's going on in Australia.
They support terrorism? Is that what goes on, Joe?
You support terrorism.
To kill a shark?
You're down with the enemy. That's the ultimate, not the NSA. That's not our ultimate enemy. Our ultimate enemy are fucking sharks.
It's funny, with all the shit that they listen to, I'm always surprised that we still have old kidnapping, serial killers. You figured if they were tapping everybody's phone, they could find anybody that they wanted.
Yeah, they would look at everybody's phone. I just killed my 7th hooker, LOL. You know, like, look at this motherfucker just texted his friend.
Who knows, dude?
Yeah.
Someone's going to slip up.
Oh, well, they most certainly have. I'm sure they've used it. I mean, if it's been around as long as they say it's been around, when you hear about the actual coding of the NSA software and how they first started doing it, there was a guy, the original NSA whistleblower. I should pull this guy up and give him his props because it's a pretty fascinating story. Because he was a whistleblower a long time ago, and he was the guy that was responsible for making the software. And when he was making the software, he was telling everybody, like, hey, you can't use this to just spy on everybody. So he started doing all these interviews. But it was before Edward Snowden. So everybody thinks of Edward Snowden as the original NSA whistleblower. But there was another guy before that. There was another guy in 2002, I believe, he came out. And, yeah, here it is, Bill Binney. And this fucking guy told people about this a long time ago. There's a story of it on YouTube on the RT America channel. That's Bill Binney, Binney. And he was a U.S. intelligence official. And he worked for the NSA. And he turned into a whistleblower. In October 31st, 2001, after more than 30 years with the agency, he was a high-profile critic of his former employers during the George W. Bush administration, and was subject to FBI investigations, of course, including a raid on his home, of course. Fucking thugs.
Where's he doing time now?
He's not. He's not doing time. That's what's crazy.
Where is he?
Because he called this before they did it, whereas Edward Snowden called it while it was happening. Right. So Edward Snowden got in trouble. This guy was predicting the future. And he was saying that when he found out that they were able to spy on everyone and that they were using this system, the system that was it was initially called Trailblazer, and it was a system intended to analyze data carried on communications networks such as the internet, and
including social networks.
Yes, and he found out that they were starting to do it they were starting to do it to everybody, and he called it. He said that's their plan. Their plan is to monitor every email, every phone call, and he said. The guy, he said, look, this is un-American. And the guy stuck his neck out there. He got away with it, though. It's really interesting because he just predicted it. And, he wasn't actually talking about something that had happened. Right. But he got out of the NSA and said, this is going on.
You know what's crazy? For the first couple of years of me making music, people used to call me a conspiracy theorist. And I always used to laugh, and I'd be like, all right, well, let's play it down. Let's Encyclopedia Brown this bitch right now and tell me, what is my conspiracy? That the government spies on you? I was right about that.
Yeah.
I released a record talking about how, we're going to war for false reasons. This is a false premise to be in war. Okay, well, we found out there are no weapons of mass destruction. I never said that Bush was directly responsible for 9/11. I said that I never believed the government's version because they couldn't even tell the truth about the air to breathe. I always felt like the story was incomplete. What's the conspiracy theory? That's absolutely fucking true now. We find out that there are layers upon layers upon layers of what's going on in the world. I said that the government itself was involved in a drug trade in Peruvian cocaine. So people said, oh my God, how can you use this conspiracy theory? Really? And now we find out that they protect certain Mexican cartels as long as they sell out to other homies. The absolute truth of the drug game here in America is they don't go after the little fish to get the big fish. You know what I mean? They want the big fish so they can rat out all the little fish and they can all spend time in the jail because only the main dude has the $10 million attorney. So, I mean, I don't blame this guy for just being fed up and saying, hey, man, this is exactly what's going on or what's going to go on in the future. I'm just surprised that somebody hasn't found a way to give him cancer or some shit and kill him off in a way that doesn't raise that much suspicion.
Well, like I said, he did it so long ago before it ever became a public issue that he quit in 2001. Right. And that's when he started talking and doing all these interviews. You know what it is,
was it
man?
pre-9/11, 2001?
No, post 9/11 is when he quit. Look, the dude is essentially, I mean, he's a real patriot. That's what he is. He's a guy who is working in the office of he's working for the defense of the country in the right way. I mean, that's what he's doing. He wants there to be like laws. He wants there to be protection of rights as well, though. He wants us to be able to go after terrorists, but he doesn't think the government should be able to just willy-nilly look into everybody's fucking emails.
But the government
Check
shouldn't become a terrorist in the process of going after terrorists.
Exactly.
You know,
And
if you're
that's
torturing
threat.
random people in order to do that, then you are becoming the terrorists themselves, and then there's no distinction really, because one is a hidden danger that people are terrified of, and the other one is exactly the same thing, a hidden danger that people are terrified from. Someone in power says, you know what, I don't like this guy. I don't like Rogan. You know, he's talking about the ATF. That's my business. You know what? I want you guys to ruin his fucking life. I want you to go after him. You know,
Well, it's been proven that they do that with the IRS.
Right.
They use the IRS to go after political enemies. I mean, there are a lot of fucking heads rolled because of that shit, because it got public. Yeah, people have this. There's a lot of no nonsense people out there. That's the real issue. There's a lot of people like, oh, you believe in Bigfoot? Ha, you believe in conspiracy theories? Ha, what do you think the government's out to get you? There's a lot of these people that like to pretend that it's foolish to think that the government is involved in anything shady ever, and that they're always above ground. They have too much power. Whenever you get groups of people that have that much power, when you have essentially the power to create laws, the power to go in to the very laws that were established in the beginning of this nation and change them so that you can get away with shit that would ordinarily be illegal.
Right.
Like all those things are only done by people who have too much power. They're never things that people vote on. The people never vote to give themselves less rights. The people never vote to give more trust in the government. Well, the government just sort of takes it slowly but surely, and the best way to take it is to tell you there's a bunch of enemies they have to protect you from. It's a timeless, age-old trick, and the idea that that's a conspiracy theory is ignoring all of human history from the jump. Everything ever done by people with guns, swords, or arrows.
Right.
Everything ever done was done with deception. It was done by establishing enemies and protecting you from those enemies. They're timeless techniques. And the idea that the greatest
Divide and
government...
conquer.
Yeah, that we would stop doing that in 2014, that after all they've learned, after all these years, they go, you know what, all that time-tested shit, we're going to set it aside, and we're going to be ethical. We're gonna be the ethical dominators
because
of the world.
Obama's in office now. We're gonna be ethical. But there were people who believed in this fairy tale. And
I did. I wanted to. I wanted that guy to get in and go, gotcha, bitches.
Right.
You know, I was
I
fucking
second
child
that.
of a single
I
mom.
second that.
I
smoked weed.
I was there. I remember in Harlem when he was elected, and it was like pandemonium. I shit you not. It just so happened that they were moving like a subway car. A pretty big deal. People usually don't see them in the street, but they were moving a subway car via like a tractor trailer, and they were moving it through 125th from one side to another, and they had a jumbotron set up by like the state building, and he gave his address, and there were like 100,000 people in the street right there, and they followed the procession of the subway. I saw an old lady get out her car and start dancing. You know what I mean? And she was just like, look, and she must have been like 80 years old, and I was like, yo, Grandma, you see so happy. She's like, you know, you got to understand, I grew up in a time where people looked at me like I wasn't a fucking human being. You know what I mean? And to see that, I mean, look, I always discuss these variations of oppression because people try to liken what happens to Africans and to Native Americans to other struggles and other people being oppressed. But you know what? You can't. No one ever tried to, for example, kill somebody else from another group because they knew how to read. You know what I mean? Like these things were specifically done to a people to try and take away from the legitimacy that they have to dehumanize, because that's the only way to really do something that negative to someone. You have to find some sort of different way to define them as a person so that then you can justify it, not just to yourself, but to other groups of people. You know, normal people won't be like, hey man, I'm just going to kill this person and take their land and their gold and their oil or whatever it is. But now it's like, oh my God, no, these people and the way they are wicked, and their wickedness is going to spread to the rest of us so much.
Well, we have belief systems, man. And belief systems, once they're in place, they can be really scary. You know, if you have a belief system that this group that you're going after are all evil and God is on your side and they need to be smitten from the earth,
But
if
that's
you
the
have
one,
that belief
God
system
on your side.
Yeah, there's
that's
a lot
the
of
other
that.
one. God
Yeah.
on your side,
Yeah.
and that's what I think turns a lot of people off about religion. It's not. There's no personal response. As much as the right wingers that are all religious scream about, oh, we want people in the ghetto to have personal. Why don't you take some personal responsibility? Don't put it on God. Put it on you. You feel uncomfortable with this being this way. Or you don't like these people for some reason. Or maybe you've actually done the history and you know that these people have a legitimate reason to be unhappy with this government or know that they've been treated unfairly in some way, shape, or form. And I think there's a difference between being angry and having holy anger and having a righteous anger. And being angry for a reason, not just being upset and feeling like you're quote-unquote the victim, but technically looking at a situation and saying, no, I was treated unfairly. And you know what? I was taken advantage of. And I think from the time that people have been a caveman to, tomorrow, all anger comes from being treated unfairly or the perception that you're treated unfairly. Anything. Lied to, you treated me unfairly. You told someone else the truth, but you told me a lie. You stole from me. You treated me unfairly. I let you into my house. I protected you, and you fucking repaid me by robbing me. All of that comes back to it. And I just think that if this government is even going to survive, it really has to address the amount of cynicism that exists in America right now. Because that was the whole point, I thought, of Obama coming in. The idea that people were so cynical about a government under Bush that they saw McCain as an extension to that. They were like, oh my God, again? Another one? Well, who are we going to go to war with now? But then when he came in, he was supposed to be, the great unifier. But he turned into a great pacifier. He was just like, okay, cool. Everything's gonna be good. I'm gonna intellectualize all of this and make it seem rational, So I'll get away with a whole bunch of shit that if Mitt Romney had been elected or if McCain had been elected and done the exact same shit that he did, they would have gone crazy. Where are the people that were marching on Washington to go against the war? Where are they now? That's why, I keep it real, Rogan. I do a lot of activism. We did a show yesterday to raise money for people that were victims of that typhoon in the Philippines, and it's going straight to them because we're working with grassroots organizations. But a lot of times when I see these big activist groups and they come up to me and I'm just like, yo, where the fuck are you now? You were all waving your flag, when it was the Bush era. Mm-hmm. But now that Obama's in power, you don't want to make any waves. Now I see you people on MSNBC, you're advocating a war in Syria. You don't even know what the fuck is going on there. You don't know anything about the history of that struggle. You don't know anything about the idea of what's going to actually happen once they get attacked and they have to call their client. I mean, they're a client state of Russia. They're a vassal of Russia now. They basically sold themselves off because of the chemical weapons thing. They said, all right, we'll give you the chemical weapons. Then you and the UN will deal with that personally. It enables them to say, all right, we're going to be partners forever and ever. As long as Russia exists, Syria will be here. And that's the deal that they had to make. And there are plenty of people who made that deal with America. As long as they exist, man, we'll be good. But as soon as America is in danger, guess what? My ass is in danger too. There are plenty of places like Guam. America holds on to Puerto Rico like it's balls. Israel, I'll tell you right now.
Puerto Rico is one of the weirdest ones, right? Because it's a sort of a state, but not really a state.
Well,
it's a commonwealth, right?
It received a charter of independence from Spain in like 1898, and literally the next year, the USS Maine exploded. But when people did research, decades later, they found out the ship imploded. It exploded from the inside. And ironically, here's another interesting tidbit. All of the white officers were on the land when the ship exploded. And the only people on the ship were like the deckhands and the people of color. And the fucking...
Are you implying that someone in the government blew up that ship, sir? Because that shit's never happened before.
Remember the USS Maine.
Excuse
That's what they
me,
would say.
That's never even been planned. There's a lot of people that feel that the Bush administration had planned a false flag on Iran, but that's false because the Bush administration was awesome, and if they did plan it, it would have happened. So you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. They were perfect. They had God on their side.
And God on their side. Yo, I swear to God, there's so many times when I've seen people, like when I go to colleges, and there's some preacher dude, like in front of the college, arguing with the atheists. And I always ask him, I'm like, yo, dude, do you believe in the president? He's like, I absolutely support, President Bush. I was like, what would he have to do to lose your support? Like, what sort of things would he have to abuse? Could he kill someone and still gain your support? when the guy was like, well, that depends who. And I'm just like, well, wait a minute, dude. What do you mean it depends who? If he ordered the deaths of some people overseas who aren't Christians, he's forgiven. But if he, like, shot someone next door who he went to church with, he should burn in hell forever? I mean, at that point, I think the selective morality is what bothers a lot of people about religion in general. It's just like, okay, cool, I'm only going to care about the lives of certain human beings because they share this same belief system of mine. But the moment that you don't, then I feel so threatened by your existence that I don't care if your children live or die.
Well, you heard the latest revelations about the NSA that they were ordering drone strikes based on metadata. They were ordering drone strikes based on GPS location of phones that they were tracking, so that they might not have even known that the guy that they were looking for was inside the building, and they just randomly targeted buildings where these phones existed. You know, if that's true, that means they just said, okay, well, we're going to have to kill a whole bunch of fucking people to get this phone.
Right.
So
this phone that he may not even be in. He'll hold my phone today, man.
Yeah, the whole thing. Here, I'll pull it up because they did a story of it on RT. Yeah, use of NSA metadata to find drone target kills. That's crazy. Kill civilians. They would find these. I mean, this is really hard to believe, but they would find these people by the location of their phone and then send in the missiles. Jesus. That's evil shit. Wow. Man. That's really evil shit. And I know there's bad people in the world, for sure. But that is not in any way, shape, or form the way to handle it. There's got to be a better way to kill people.
Jesus Christ.
If there's bad people that you have to kill, you can't just kill everybody around them.
Right.
That shit's crazy.
You'll turn everybody against you, A.
Well, I'm against you. We should all be against you.
Right.
It's murder. You're a murderer. You're just murdering people in a way that is sanctioned.
But you know what strikes me about that is that this government has no problem doing that anyway. They call it collateral damage. They say, okay, you know what? We have a military target. It happens to be near a school. You know what? That's collateral damage.
That anybody could even think about doing something like this, though.
With the metadata, that's like insane, extreme collateral damage.
It's insane.
That's how they feel about it.
This is Glenn Greenwald. Is the guy who put this out.
I like that guy.
I like him too. My friend Sam Harris hates his guts, though.
Why?
He thinks Sam Harris is anti-Islam. Sam Harris is a neuroscientist, is an author, and he's pretty strong proponent of atheism.
Right.
And this guy Greenwald thinks that he's got an anti-Muslim agenda, anti-Islam agenda.
You know what's interesting? I had this discussion with somebody about atheism and their way of dealing with different cultures and societies. You can totally be an atheist and be racist. It's like being, you could be a feminist and you could be rachist. That's ridiculous to think that those two things can't coexist in the same being. My thing is this: when I hear people like Richard Dawkins and people who are Darwinists have conversations, what's interesting to me is the level of civilization that they'll attribute to, like, white Christian society. And even though they'll say it's barbaric, it's still not as barbaric as those dark brown people's cultures, because they're even more dangerous. Yeah, and my thing is this. Right, my thing is this. It's like if someone says Allahu Akbar before they go into war, and that is the benchmark to say that this is, a religious killing, then what about all the soldiers of America who say the Lord's Prayer before they go into combat? Isn't that interpreted as, oh man, Jesus, help me kill these motherfuckers? Really? Then you're making a sacrifice. Then is Christ a blood god to you, or is it a God of peace? That's the question that I have to ask. And that is the part where, when I speak to people who are atheists, who don't believe in theism and stuff like that, you have to separate that from actual historians and people who have studied the history of religion and the history of different cultures and societies to say which one is more so-called civil to one another. Because I think we've fallen to this idea of the civilized savage, the idea that certain cultures brought civilization to other people. Nobody ever brought civilization to anybody. Civilization is the act of being civil to one another. When you take somebody else's shit and then you say, oh, guess what? You're going to use our way of doing things now rather than yours. You didn't civilize anybody. You just took them over and you enslaved them in a very polite way sometimes. And sometimes in a not so very polite way, because colonization is too nice of a word for rape, genocide, and fucking
Yeah, is it ever been
decimation of the
nice?
population.
Has
Never.
anybody ever taken over a country nice? It's always not so nice. I mean, the horrors that happen in this country alone, when it's hard to believe that just a couple hundred years ago, all this stuff wasn't here. I mean, a couple hundred years ago is nothing. It's a blink of an eye. And
Well, that's what we used to get into arguments. We may have talked about this on the first show when people were like, "Oh, you know, the aliens had to help those people back in the day," and I was like, "Yo, dude, if they helped them, you know, over the course of 10,000 years build a pyramid, then maybe they helped you because about 200 years ago you were driving a horse and carriage, and now you got a rover on Mars, so you got a little boost too from the aliens, buddy. You know what I mean? I think that it's just ridiculous to assume one culture had communication and one culture couldn't possibly have. If they've been here, then they've been here the whole time.
Well, if it is possible that we were ever visited by aliens, who knows? Maybe it takes a long fucking time to get here. Maybe they can only come here once or twice in a generation ever. I don't know.
They set up shop here, dude.
But if that's the case, wouldn't there be levels of aliens, just like there's levels of human civilization? Like human civilization goes from having a horse and buggy to having a car to having an airplane. Wouldn't alien civilization go from there too? Maybe some of them reach us, and these are like the real ghetto aliens that are barely getting their shit together out there in the world. They're not. They don't have any fucking
like
free
the big
thinking
homie
civilization.
alien comes like, "Yo, what are you doing over
Very
there?"
sketchy science. They fucking blow up sometimes. Those are the guys who crashed at Roswell. They're more advanced than us, but they're still kind of fucked up. And then there's dudes that are so far advanced than them that they make them look like cave people.
Right.
And these people no longer have bodies, and they travel interdimensionally, and they exist in the
That's what I think.
It's like
it could
a
be
hit-
too.
Yeah.
Like there's no saying like what dimension they're in. You know what I mean? Or how our eyes are calibrated, what we can or can't see.
Well, I used to be real attracted to the idea that aliens came and helped people. I was very, very attracted to the idea. And I'm still attracted to it because I think it'd be insanely fascinating because it really follows what human beings would do if we were super advanced and we came to a planet and we found some primitive life forms. For sure we would drop off some of our fucking jizz. We would definitely give them some of our DNA. We're gross. We thought we could, touch this world in some way.
It's true. That
We've
dude
decided to do that to
dude,
Mars.
He did fuck the Avatar, didn't he?
Yes. Well,
He
we've
fucked
decided
that big blue cat.
Think about what we're talking about doing to Mars.
Is that bestiality? Hold on.
That's interspecies
Let's
sex.
ask the people.
It's not bestiality because they talk. It's just you're fucking an alien.
No, but
No,
that's
it's
cool.
not
but-
bestiality. No, it's interspecies. It's not bestiality,
it's
is
cool
it?
to fuck
but
aliens,
she's an
man.
animal. She
That
may
shit
be
was
a humanoid,
No,
but she's a fucking beast.
we're calling her an animal. We don't know what her phylum
She's not
would
an
be.
animal. She talks.
Right.
We established that shit back in Star Trek when Kirk fucked that green chick. Remember that?
Jesus Christ.
That was it. It's precedent. It's legal precedent.
She
You
didn't have a
can fuck
tail.
hot
The girl
aliens.
didn't have a tail.
I don't give a fuck, dude.
She had like a
She's
nose
hot.
like a cat,
Bitch
dude.
was hot.
You would fuck her?
I'd fuck that Avatar bitch. By
Really?
the end of the movie,
I respect that.
Yeah, by the end of the movie, I wanted to live with the Na'vi.
I respect
wanted to be
that.
in the trees. I wanted to be camping and shooting arrows and
So
flying
that's
dinosaurs.
not bestiality. So we've
It's
taken a
interspecies.
concession on JRE that fucking a 10-foot tall cat bitch is not bestiality.
But what about the Planet of the Apes when they cut the scene? There's supposed to be the Marky Mark version joint. It's supposed to be a scene where he was having sex with the ape.
No.
Yeah, dude, they filmed it.
What?
Yeah.
And they were saying, is it bestiality? He's like, is it wrong to be interspecies? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Listen, I think it's okay to fuck hot aliens. I'm going to say it right now. If a hot alien comes to visit me in the middle of the night, if I get away with it, I'm going to fuck her.
I respect that.
I'm not mad at that.
What if it's not a her?
Then
No,
I'm
we
gonna-
know what you're going to.
very uncomfortable.
We know
What
it's
if-
her.
But what if their he's look like hers and their hers look like he's?
that's
It's
too
a
much.
topsy-turvy world down under.
Oh, man.
Yeah, what if the intonation, everything was perfect, right? Except that she had a really deep voice. Like, hey, Joe,
I fucked some smokers. I fucked a few smokers in my day.
Really?
You gotta accept
a
it.
hot chick with a big Ange voice
I
that's
don't
just
care.
ready to take you under
She's
the
hot.
wing.
I'll take care of it. She's hot. I'll deal with it.
I'm totally
Just
pulling
never
away from
talk to
this.
her on the phone.
My thoughts on aliens visiting with people, though, that people don't really understand how long 100 years is. We think of like 400 years ago as being like, wow, 400 years ago, back then they didn't have cameras. Back then they didn't have automobiles. Everybody rode horses. And then 400 years before that, and 400 years before that, you stop and think about what you're talking about with Egypt. You're talking about a culture that existed for thousands of years. Thousands of years. And they obviously were smart as fuck. They wrote down a lot of shit. Just what they left behind. Forget about what was found during the burning of the Library of Alexandria. I mean, when they found that they destroyed all these like ancient records and all this information about how they did their construction. I mean, who knows what the fuck was in there when they burnt all that stuff?
Right.
But what
And it
they
was
left
burnt several
behind,
times.
yeah. But yes, it was. What they left behind though, carved in the stones, is magnificent shit. I mean, all their hieroglyphs, the beautiful works of art they left behind, like the symmetry to their buildings and the mathematics of their construction. It's so obvious they were super, super advanced people. Like, they were really advanced. And we just think of that as being like, whoa, there's no way, aliens must have did it. No, it's real possible that a human race, a human culture can get super advanced and fuck it all up. And it could be fucked up by disease, and it could be fucked up by asteroids, and it could be fucked up by other humans invading them, which would happen to Egypt. They got invaded by the Nubians, and the Nubians took over. That's why the older pharaoh, the more recent pharaohs all had black African faces. Like the pharaoh on the face of the Sphinx is a very distinctly different face than some of the more Sephardic pharaohs that you saw like in the early days.
Right. And the other thing is this, that Egypt initially began as a society that rose from other places. You know what I mean? There were other civilizations that predated it, such as Sumeria, things of that nature. And when you look at it, yes, of course, they could have easily took from those civilizations as well.
For sure.
We took from other civilizations.
For sure.
We took from tribes and from other people. I mean, our Constitution itself is based on an Iroquois confederacy, something that people don't really realize or pay attention to. That, yes, we didn't just get corn from indigenous people. We got this idea that different places could be under the same federal state, but still, guess what? Have laws of their own that are respected by the federal government, or forceful, that they're forced to respect, because these are different tribes, and these tribes are not going to tolerate you telling them how to live. However, we will combine forces for the survivability of all of us together, as opposed to individual tribes.
Wasn't that the whole forming of the Constitution as well? I mean, didn't they get the ideas in the Constitution from studying the great civilizations of the past, like Rome and Greece, and all their ideals about how society should be put together, and use those ideas in a lot of ways to formulate the Constitution?
Well, I mean, Napoleon's civil code also influenced a lot of Western societies, Europe's legal system now. But I think, you know, when we talk about whether it's aliens or whether it's anybody that interferes in a human society, you want to think that, what would their agenda be? What do they want? What could they possibly have to gain for all of it? Resources, land. I mean, if you read the Bible, it says that, you know, the sons of heaven mated with the daughters of men. You know, who's to say that's angels? Maybe that's aliens who came down to fuck a woman.
It's absolutely possible that it did happen. I know people don't like to hear that. They're like, oh, great, you believe in aliens. That's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying it's absolutely possible,
Right.
because this fucking thing is so big. It's so big. The idea that we've never been visited before is silly. But if we pay attention to the way we treat the things on this planet that we can
Exactly.
control, and we think about how the fuck they would deal with us, we should be probably pretty happy that it is bullshit. Because if they're anything like us, I wouldn't put it past them creating us out of monkeys. I wouldn't put it past some super advanced alien species. Look at some stupid chimps and go, look at these dumb motherfuckers. Let's take
fuck
some
with
of
them.
our shit
Yeah.
and put it into them, and then come back in 1,000 years. Oh my God, they got planes and buildings, and I mean, who knows? It is possible that happened. It sounds quite ridiculous. Don't worry, I know that,
Right.
and I know it sounds.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm not
Right.
saying it's likely. It's certainly there is a chance that this planet has been visited before. Just the fact that we can go to Mars with a drone. We know that we sent these manned vehicles into space. We know that there's satellites in orbit. We've used the space shuttle. We've used rockets. There's, without a doubt, a rover that's moving around on the Mars right now. If there's a rover moving around on Mars, we sent it from this planet. We're monkeys. I mean, we're a couple hundred years removed from slavery in this country. We just came up with the internet 20 years ago. We already have a robot moving around on Mars. If there's something else out there that's 100 years, 1,000 years more advanced than us, if they haven't blown themselves up, for sure they would send some shit our way. And if they came here a long, long ass time ago, the universe is 13 point whatever billion years old, allegedly. Earth is only 4.6 billion years old. I mean, there's
a hell of a long
That's
time.
a long time.
Big window.
That leaves 9 fucking billion plus years that someone else could have been in a much more stable solar system, developed a civilization that's not based on dominator culture,
Empires
and then figured
rose
out
and
a way.
fall during that time.
They might have had a completely psychedelic culture. Like from the jump, they were eating mushrooms. Never got out of it. They might live in the tropical climate. Like the whole planet might be a stable tropical climate where they're consistently engaging in mushroom use. And they developed the ability to read each other's minds at like a fucking 1,000 years into their civilization, and they've just been rocking it freestyle since then. And here they are, 10 billion years older than this planet.
But if we are like a downgraded version of humans, then humans like 4.0 must be really frightening creatures. Something that can like look into your mind and see you control things with their head. And the people who don't necessarily believe this, but who won't even subscribe to the possibility, these are the same people that think that laws hold our country together rather than the iron fist of a talking monkey.
Well,
that's what holds this shit together. Homie, I will destroy you if you break these things that I've written down.
How about the NSA whistleblower? The fucking FBI breaks into his house. Get on the floor, traitor!
I heard a word to that. What you talk? There's a woman named Dr. Carolyn Mace, and she has talking about the evolution of the species, and she says that her theory is that we're all Homo erectus because we walk upright, but there's also different people on this planet that are called Homo noeticus, meaning that they have more than just the 5 senses that people have. So we're not all the same species. Some people are more devolved or evolved than others. So
no, you can't say that though, man. People will accuse you of racism.
What? No.
You can't say that. You can't say that. There's some people who are just dumber.
No.
There's different species of people. People go, wait.
Meaning that you could, how sometimes you could just think of a friend and they'll call you.
Well, how about this?
It's just there's no term to.
It's not so much dependent on the ideas of compartmentalizing people in the way we do in terms of race or in terms of religion. It wouldn't be like to say that one person of this color or this
it's not a color
creed would have been smarter. It would have been a specific individual that's born within that line. Either it could be here in America, it could be in Mexico, it could be in Nigeria or Scandinavia somewhere, but for example, there are types of intelligences that we really do appreciate in this country. We look at science and math and we say, oh man, you're really smart, you're going to be a fucking engineer. But people don't appreciate social intelligence, emotional intelligence. Imagine somebody that's able to come into a room and they look at you and they like, you know what, Joe walks different today. That means he's sad, you know what I mean? Or you know what, he's worried about something. Or when he checks his phone a lot, he only interrupts the podcast to speak to his child or something. So something must be wrong at home. People who pick up on those things, right. It's incredibly. It's not like female intuition, that sex is bullshit. It's the idea that people in general, male, female, whatever, some of them are just more in touch with the idea of giving a fuck about how the people around them exist, and therefore they're just a more, I wouldn't say a more considerate human being, but they have more emotional intelligence.
They pay more attention to developing that in themselves.
Musical intelligence, for example. People could say, all right, I hear a note. That's a G sharp. Now I'm going to create a whole song around it, and it's already finished in my head. That's musical genius. Physical intelligence, people who say, you MMA shit, god damn it, that's physical intelligence. Anyone who's got to fight in the ring and calibrate an exact punch or know how to move somebody or to step them in this direction or other, that's an incredible physical genius that they have to possess in order to carry on something like that and not get knocked the fuck out by someone swinging on you as hard as they possibly can. But only certain intelligences are valued in this country and in the world in terms of human society, as opposed to delving into what they would really be if we took them each at not just face value, but what they represent for our human culture. I know that's why some people fuck with animals more than they fuck with people. I know people that they're like, oh, I love my dog. Why can you love a dog more than a person? Sometimes a dog is more a human being than a human. You got a homeless person in the street who's crying. Most people will walk right by him. You put your dog next to a homeless person who's fucking in tears. Somehow, I've seen it. A dog that doesn't like nobody will go over there like, hey, man, like, kind of look at you like sad. Like, why are you sad? Why are you hurt? Who the fuck would do that as a normal person? We're trained to ignore that. Whereas something like a dog is trained to say, hey, man, No, someone's in pain. That's not right. As if to say, I wish I could help you if I wasn't trapped in this fucking body.
You know what happens when people start really paying attention to a lot of homeless people and hanging out with them?
Oh, jeez.
You realize they're fucking crazy. And if you bring those motherfuckers into your life's going to be chaos. If you take that crazy crying lady underneath the bridge and say, come on over to my house. Doug Stanhope used to do that. You know what happened?
Doug Stanhope?
Yeah, these bitches, they got in a knife fight in his fucking driveway. This woman stabbed her boyfriend. Yeah, Doug used to let him. He had a front lawn. He lived in.
Nobody's
Venice.
Saying you got to breastfeed him. I'm just saying that you.
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. It's a very romanticized ideal, though. The reality is, if you want to go out there and fucking bring homeless people in your life every day, you only got 24 hours in a fucking day.
No,
homeless
I don't
people
mean
will
every
fill your
single,
life up with bullshit.
They're easier.
They'll be
though.
screaming and crying. They got no soap. Look, get your own fucking shit together, or you're crazy. It's one of those two. And if you're crazy, that's the real issue. That when the Reagan administration was here, they changed the laws. They changed the standards as far as like taking people that you had to take care of.
Right.
And they let a lot of people out of mental hospitals that were infirmed for life. And they got them out, and then these people were just like, free. You're free. You're on your own. You can take care of yourself.
But then again, when we think about it, then let's take that then. And then let's not make it romanticized and idealized. If these people are sick, if they have a disease, then shouldn't they be taken care of? Shouldn't they be in a hospital? Right?
No question. No question.
Like if someone had fucking pneumonia and they were lying on the fucking highway, you call the ambulance, they would come get them. Somebody's sitting there, they're schizophrenic. You know what I mean? Or they have multiple personality disorder. They're more liable to hurt themselves, and they're a danger to themselves and to other people. Those people need to be taken care of. For example, I look at that the way I look at drug addiction. Those people don't belong in prison for 40 or 50 years. They obviously need treatment.
Yeah.
They need to be fixed. But we only give a fuck when it's a Philip Seymour Hoffman that dies, and then where are the rest of the heroin addicts? You know, I went off on Twitter the other day because I was like, yo, dude, you know, the NYPD is investigating who sold him the hot dose? Really? You know, I know lots of people I've known through my life that either almost died or died of a damn heroin overdose or some kind of drug overdose. The NYPD didn't go meticulously looking for the specific dealer. You want to know where the heroin's coming from, homie? I told them, you can go, first stop you need to do is Afghanistan. That's where it's coming from. And the poppy fields are being protected by our troops because the warlords that we want to stay in power, that are willing to give us access, are the ones that need the money. So we allowed them to grow the poppy, and we disallowed the Taliban supporters too.
But listen, don't bring any homeless people in your house. Trust me. I know what you're saying. It all makes sense. But you got to trust me on this,
background
man.
in comedy.
You don't want them coming into your house. They don't even know what toilet paper is, dude. The whole thing will be a mess. You can't fix everybody, man.
On, Joe.
You can't fix everybody.
Not this close to Valentine's Day.
You gotta know
don't
who to
do
fix
that.
and who not to. You can't be Captain Save-A-Ho. You can't. You can't be that guy out there trying to fix the world. Be nice to everybody.
That guy out there,
the problem is the really fucking crazy people you're not gonna fix. You could work all day, every day for the rest of your life, and you wouldn't put a dent in that shit. And I think that they have to. It's a hallmark of our society.
Quick question. Do you think those people started that way, or do you think it was the things that happened to them within the course of their life more often that makes them that way?
You would be crazy to assume either or. No one has any idea what the background of a lot of those people are other than the people that have treated them in the past. They probably don't even know what the fuck happened to them. There's a lot of really sick people out there that just happen to be homeless people because we can't we can't classify them as insane enough to institutionalize.
Not then to be crazy enough to try to define it, but wouldn't you think that the majority of these cases are people who had extreme trauma of some sort as a child?
I would imagine, yeah. Right. I would imagine, well, people that I've met that have been homeless, I've met, I knew quite a few people that were homeless at least stages of their life. Right. From the time when I used to hang out in pool halls. One of my best friends was homeless for a long period of time. When I was a struggling comedian, my friend Johnny was a pool hustler, a legit 100% pool hustler, and a drug addict. But the pool hustler thing is how he got by. He was an extraordinary pool player, and he would pretend to suck. And he would go to places, and he was a fast talker, and he was a slick dude. And he got a big thrill out of tricking guys into playing him. And then he would like lose a little, and then complain, and then they would start talking shit and calling him fat and all this different stuff. And then he would slowly start playing better, and then like make it real emotional with the guy. And like he would get thousands of dollars out of people, and a lot of it was psychological. He just knew how to play people. He had social intelligence.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah, social intelligence and emotional intelligence. He had both, but he was homeless a good portion of the time. Like sometimes he would come stay at my house. This motherfucker hadn't slept in days except under pool tables. and he would just conk out like he got shot with a tranquilizer dart and just sleep for like he slept in my house for 2 solid days straight once. Because he was just burning it.
Best sleep of his life.
Probably, yeah, man. The poor dude was just out there. And, you know, and he had issues himself. He had a lot of mental health issues himself. And I think that there's a lot of people out there that are homeless that have mental health issues.
I think that's the majority of a lot of the cases. I think a lot of the homeless people that have mental health issues. And what's sad is that, you know, especially when you find people who are supposed to be cared for by this government. And it goes back to what we were talking about before. Imagine the veterans that are homeless out there who have paid dues and risked their lives for this country, and they're completely looked over. And you would think the people who say that they love America so much wouldn't be the ones that are bleeding it dry. But ironically, it's the people that are criticizing this country for the things it does wrong that love it the most. Why? Because we want to fix the things that are wrong, as opposed to people that say, hey, we just love America and anything you say against America is wrong. No, that's not the case, because the people who usually say that are the ones that are bleeding this country dry by saying, oh, man, I love America. You know, I want to destroy unions. Unions are destroying America. You know what? I want to stop workers from doing this. Dude, you're not doing it because you love America. You love money. You know, if you really loved America, how come you've got a goddamn plant overseas? You know, you could be not making, you know, 10 billion. You could be making 7 billion a year, but you would be feeding 10 times more people, you know, here in America.
They would never do that.
Of course
3
not,
billion is a big number. I don't know what kind of country you live in, sir.
But that's what I'm
You know how
talking
much
about.
Taxes, my 3 billion pays for, social programs, cleaning the streets. Who do you want to build these bridges, son?
Right.
That extra 3 billion is important.
Right. Only that they're not going to pay it in taxes either, so it's not like it's going to go to anything.
Oh, that's right. They weasel that shit.
Yeah, I mean, come on. The NFL is like
Tax-free.
a charity.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's crazy.
Come on. That's one of the funniest things of all time. The NFL is tax-free.
Is it team by team though? Do they tax
No,
the
dude,
teams?
the whole thing is a charity organization.
Oh, please.
Yeah, I thought it was
Fucking
team by team.
NFL,
Get
the
the
biggest
fuck outta
sports
here.
franchise in the world. The UFC needs to get on that. I don't know what the fuck Dana White's waiting for. We need to be tax-free. We need to be the UFC should
charity.
be tax-free.
Charity.
How the fuck are you going to
Bullshit.
give the charity?
It
yeah?
should be a charity. That's what I'm saying.
Loophole.
Fucking
amazing.
crazy shit.
That's amazing.
You imagine if the UFC tried to become tax-free?
You know who else is like that?
Oh my god.
The NHL.
They're tax-free too?
Yep.
Get the fuck out
The
of here.
NHL.
That is
I
hilarious.
didn't know that.
NBA.
That is
No,
what
no,
about
no. I
the
think
NBA?
they got to pay.
Too many black people.
They got to pay.
We're not happy about this. 99% black people, God damn it. Make them pay taxes.
That means baseball. They got to pay too. Too many Latinos. in
Too many
baseball.
Latinos.
Oh, yeah, they
These
gotta pay, too.
motherfuckers coming over here throwing heat. Give me that money, bitch. Give me that fucking money. Yeah,
that's crazy.
taxes, man. The people that don't have to pay taxes is a real goddamn mind blower. It's like, how does that get determined? And like religions that make money. Like religions like, say, Scientology. Scientology is a tax-free organization. A tax-free organization that was written by a science fiction writer who was
L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, who publicly stated that the best way to make a lot of money is to start your own religion.
Yeah.
And he got tax-free. That guy got tax-free.
You know what's funny? When I got out of prison, I went to try to find a job in all these places, and everyone said no to me. And then there was this one ad that was like, come learn the secret to life and get paid while doing it. And it was like a $12 an hour job in like $19.99 when I just made parole. And they were advertising like, please come to this area, you know, you can learn. And I walked in, and it was a Scientology center. Of
course.
And I walked in. The lady was super nice. They're all the most polite
Did you
people
fuck
in
her?
the world. No. Look,
I just wanted to fuck a Scientology.
they literally just brought me in. They shoved me in front of a screen with like 4 or 5 other people, and they played me like a Scientology video. And then they asked us. They were like, "Did you all understand the truth in this video?" And I was sitting here, and I was just like, yo, I really wanted to be like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, no one believes this shit. But at the same time, I sat back and I said, you know what? I really don't understand this religion enough for me to make a commitment about it right now. And they were very polite to me. They're like, thank you very much for your time, sir. Take care. And there was somebody else in there who really needed that fucking job. And they just looked at me, and they gave me this kind of look like, cool, you're not in the running anymore. They were like, I was touched. Yo, I just swear to God, yo, I could see the charlatan and the snake oil coming out of the side of their jacket, dude. They were like, I was touched by this video. Like, I really thought it was amazing. The dude there to get a job, yo.
Yeah.
That was it.
Joe, you
I
might
looked
be,
at it.
You might be right about this racist shit, by the way, because the only other ones that don't have to pay taxes, the golf league, the PGA, and the NHL.
The golf league
Wow.
doesn't have to pay
Serious?
taxes.
Wow, yo, that's
Who are all the owners? All the owners in the NFL, though.
That is fucking creepy.
The NBA should be pissed.
The golf guys don't have to pay
Yeah,
taxes.
that's like the most money, right?
Wow, that's dark. That's some
That's not
dark,
dark at all.
obvious shit. Dark racism. Wow, I think it's racism.
Yeah.
I'm crying racism for the NBA, and I don't even watch basketball. Yeah, the idea that you could get away with the Scientology thing, that could be. We need to start our own fucking religion. That's what we need to do. God damn it. That's how you really.
God damn it.
Lock things down. That's how you really lock things down.
That's the quote right there. We need to start our own religion. God damn it.
Well, they have so much money that they can get away with it. Like Scientology is the #2 landowner in Los Angeles. They own more buildings and property and real estate in Los Angeles than like almost anybody.
The freakiest thing is, you know how they rope off everything at Times Square when the ball is going to drop or whatever?
Yeah.
And there's a certain time you can't go past the barricades. One night I was there, and the guy said, well, are you a member of the Church of Scientology? And I said, yeah. And he let me in through the barricade. Real story, dude. Real story.
He probably just wanted to fuck you.
What?
That was the way you got close to you. What? He's like, man, he knows you're a handsome guy. You got a nice build.
Joe.
The interspecies conversation was fine.
Listen, man, I know how to take a podcast and lose its entertainment value.
came right out of Joe.
You gotta fucking press a button. Wow. You gotta keep the ball moving.
Wow.
What is the wow? What are you supposed to say? Amazing. He probably loved you. Dude's a Scientologist, trying to make friends.
It was
bad.
It was a police officer, too.
That's hilarious. Well, they might have had some sort of a deal. Maybe they pay off the cops, get through the line.
I think that's the
Hand
only
out
way
brochures.
that's the only way you really do get anything done. I think for a lot of companies and corporations, they just pay off whoever it is that's in charge.
Well, the only reason why people aren't investigating Scientology in this country, but yet they are in other countries, it's got to be just how much money they have. That's the only thing that makes sense. Because if there's a new group that came out of nowhere and they hadn't had all this history of owning all these buildings and you found out like that they developed this religion based on the scientific or science fiction authors' writings, and you would read it and go, wait a minute, what the fuck? What is these e-meters? You hold on to these aluminum cans and they tell me your personality? Get the fuck out of here. That's not real. They would be shut down. You would think that they would be run out of town.
Well, I mean, someone else could tell you, hey, this cracker is really the flesh of, a Hebrew zombie. I mean, someone could put it in that way and you would feel ridiculous.
As long as it's old, we're cool with it.
No, but that's what I mean. As long as it's through a certain period of time. Yeah. Look, I have a great respect for people who I've seen use religion to make them a better person. But when I see someone become more pretentious, more judgmental, more like, I have all the answers, and unless you believe in exactly what I believe, then you're going to go to damnation. That's when I see religion as like a destructive thing that ends up ruining people's lives. But when I see people that honestly just take it, and I think that's the thing with a lot of religions, as long as the canon can be as ridiculous as it's going to be. People will believe preposterous things. All of them ask you to believe something preposterous. The ocean is divided. Muhammad ascended into heaven. You know what I mean? Or Jesus Christ was born of a virgin and then died and came back to life. And yet, when you look at people's lives, some people's lives are preposterous. There was a family my friend was staying in doing a photo project down in Brazil. And he was down there and he was like, there are 2 holes in the floor. One hole is in the bathroom where everyone goes to the bathroom. And the other hole is like literally right next door. And they put like a bucket down there to catch shrimp. And I'm like, wait a minute. So where is it, like in a different river or something? Like, nah, it's the same water. And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, definitely. It's the same exact water. And he's like, you have to understand, that's the only way they're going to eat anything that day is to fish for shrimp in that shit water. And that's preposterous to me. For you and I to look at that and be like, oh man, you know, who in this room would imagine, you know, I'm going to put my hand in the toilet to pick out my dinner tomorrow? But that is the absolute reality that people who are living in those type of dire conditions, because if they don't eat that, they're not going to fucking eat. That's why I'm honestly not offended if somebody, you know, steals something when I'm in some third world country. I mean, not that I like that shit, but yo, you're taking something because you're gonna die if you don't sell it to eat. And motherfuckers are just stealing, you know, Reebok pumps because they want to look fucking cool. Like, you're a sucker, my nigga.
The only person I know that's ever actually started a religion is Alex Gray. Alex Gray is the visionary artist. I don't know if you've ever seen his work, but everything he does is these psychedelic portraits. They're like these really intense, like multicolored. They look like dimethyltryptamine trips. It's all like ayahuasca trips or mushroom trips, and all of his art. This is his
people
stuff.
coming out of people.
Yeah, this is all of his stuff. Well, he's created his. Not only has he created his own religion, but he got tax-free status, and his city is trying to fight it. They still want him to pay taxes. I think. I don't know if he ever worked that out, but he's actually trying to do it in a really like positive, healthy way. He's not trying to make money off people or own people or give you a bunch of rules that you have to follow. He's just essentially he's a guy who really believes that psychedelics are a connection to the true God of the universe, love and God, and you know the energy that exists when you have these powerful, transformative psychedelic experiences. So he's building this thing in upstate New York. He came on and showed me and Brian his community he's putting together up there. But he's got this huge building that he's making that he came on our podcast and did a Kickstarter for it and raised the money like in no time. It was amazing. The people from this podcast fucking represented like in as positive a strong way as was humanly possible, and a whole bunch of people supported this. And he got all his funding, and he's building this incredible building. Look at this thing. Look it up, Tech. It's on the other one in front of you too. This is going to be his church. Yeah,
Holy
it's all based
shit.
on his artwork, and it's like probably going to be one of the most beautiful buildings in the world.
And where is he going to build this thing?
In upstate New York, he has like he has
What?
a temple in
That
upstate New York.
belongs in like a jungle in Colombia or some shit.
But
you know
I'm
what I mean?
telling you,
on
man,
top of a mountain or something.
I've met the dude several times, and he is the real deal. He really is a beautiful person. He's all full of love. The guy's like so loving and happy and friendly. He's not evil in any way, shape, or form, and he just wants to promote those ideas and promote art and promote love. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better guy trying to create his own religion. But what he's trying to do is you just influence people in a very positive way.
But you know what, Joe? It's usually never the guy who creates it.
All right.
It's always the inheritor. It's always the inheritor.
That's so true.
Whoever the fuck takes this shit over is going to be like, listen, you know, in order for you to really get the psychedelic experience,
you gotta suck my dick.
Right. Some crazy shit. You know what I mean?
Happy meals. Big happy meals
You need
out
to
of
let
it.
me father children with everyone's wife here. It just
They all do that, right? Eventually, because it's too hard. Hot girls walking around, they love you so much because you're the Messiah. Damn, I want to hit that.
God.
This fucking husband of hers is just fucking up my flow.
God.
Yeah, well, that's just human nature, man. I mean, that's obviously the issue with priests telling them they can't have sex. You know, you create monsters. You create monsters when you suppress. There's no way around it. If you suppress, energy finds a way through in another way.
I really want to do some in-depth research on when that started happening, because in the early Orthodox church, people who were officials of the church were allowed to have wives. They were allowed to have a dispensation. They were allowed to get married. They got married by the Pope. I mean, the Pope had children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think at some point people looked at it, probably in the Middle Ages, where people got real pious, and you know, when you examine the changing of Christianity, you find specific points where it becomes, you know, from that time where people are completely nonviolent to becoming structured to be a violent society. You know, people say, "Oh, well, whose writings are those?" I always said it was Saint Augustine, and then it makes sense because he dies in the siege of Hippo Regius during that particular time. You know, the Eastern Roman Empire was trying to eradicate something called Arianism, which is the idea that the Father is superior to the Son. In other words, the Father created the Son, and therefore the Son was inferior to the Father as he was a creation. The people of the church hated this idea, and so they overthrew all of the Germanic kingdoms that inherited the Western Roman Empire in order to impose their idea of what Christianity would be, which, if you think about it, would make that the first crusade ever in terms of Christianity.
Celibacy, this is where it starts out. Celibacy, the first mandate requiring priests to be celibate came in 304 AD. Jesus. So the year 304, Canon 33 of the Council of Elvira, that is some Harry Potter shit, stated that all bishops, presbyters, and deacons and all other clerics were to abstain completely from their wives and not to have children. Wow. A short time later, in 326, the Council of Nicaea, convened by Constantine, rejected a ban of priests marrying requested by Spanish clerics. Wow. This is fantastic. So they just decided they were slinging too much dick. That's the only way around it. That's exactly what was going on. There's no. They had too much power. There was no rock stars back then. You had poets, and by the way, when you're dealing with 304 rather, there was no one was reading the Bible. They didn't figure out how to read the Bible until Martin Luther came along and translated it into a phonetic language. That was when most people could
I'm trying
read
to think. When did they?
Before it was Latin.
The first time it was translated into Germanic was, I believe, in the 4th century by a priest called Wulfila. And when I look at the actual extension of where it is, a lot of people were really illiterate in the first place, and the way that they learned to read in Greece and in Rome was actually by reading the Bible and reading the actual scripture and saying, oh, it would be the way someone would read a kid's book these days. Only you're not reading a kid's book, you're reading what you're going to be indoctrinated into for the rest of your entire life. In other words, that's the first book and the last book you're going to read, probably, if you're sitting in there and you're a peasant in the middle of nowhere in the Middle Ages.
It says that Germanic language translations of the Bible have existed since the Middle Ages, and the most influential is Luther's translation. And that the Martin Luther translations, I believe that was in the 1500s or something like that. There's a great hardcore history podcast on that called something Thor's. Find the name of that. I forget what it is, but it's all about Martin Luther translating the Bible into a phonetic language. Yeah, they couldn't read it. So back then, when a priest was the only direct connection to God, he was the only guy that was able to tell you the word of God. He was the
Here it is.
Thor's Angels.
Here it is. This is the Gothic Bible, or the Wulfila Bible. Christian Bible as translated by the Wulfila in the 4th century into the Gothic language spoken by the Eastern Germanic peoples or the Gothic tribes, meaning the inheritors of the Roman state. As Rome fell in 410, and then, of course, I think in 455, and then finally, what was the last? 476.
And back then, the Germans were totally different. Like the whole country of Germany, there was so many barbarians. There was big, fucking, powerful, scary dudes.
But this is the interesting point. What makes them a barbarian? That they weren't with Rome. If anything, wasn't Rome the most barbaric out of all of them?
Well, I mean, when I say barbarian, I mean like Conan the Barbarian. I mean, there's big, giant motherfuckers who ate meat and drank milk. That was like primary staples of their diet. They had massive amount of protein. But the protein content of their diet is why they were so big. They were enormous people. I don't think they did a whole lot of farming because it's cold as shit up there. So they're eating, you know, a lot of animal protein, and they were enormous in comparison to a lot of the people that would encounter them. Like that was like the first depictions from China, I believe, of encountering German people. They were like, holy shit, are these fucking people big? You know, they were just enormous, savage people. You know?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that there was some sort of human sacrifice here and there.
Oh, fuck yeah.
The thing is that
everybody did that. That shit was standard.
When you look at their tribal societies, though, I really would like to sit down and examine what the the process was for them in their societies as opposed to when they were Romanized. You know, because that people living in like some mud hut in the middle of Germany, I'm sure they had some different idea of controlling themselves and to reining in, similar to the way Native American people didn't ever had a prison. You know what I mean? Where the fuck did you put the people that did bad things? Well, you just had to fix them, or
Put them on sticks.
somebody
Tie
had to
'em
be
up,
fixed.
cut their eyelids off.
Someone had to be fixed.
Yeah, or kill them. I think they probably killed a lot of people too.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, it depends on what society you want to imagine. I mean, I remember I watched the movie 300, right? And it was like, oh man, they make these Persians seem like the wickedest people. But when you look at it, what were the Greeks doing? They were practicing infanticide. It was still a monarchy. Sparta still had slaves, like a motherfucker.
Well, I
So it
give
wasn't like-
the movie 300 a lot of creative freedom because it was based on a graphic novel, and it's obviously got a lot of
They're doing
mythical
they're doing
qualities.
another one.
I know. I don't have. I'll go see that movie. I loved it. But to me, it's a comic book.
Right.
The real problem with making a movie about Spartans is you're going to have a bunch of dudes fucking each other. Okay? If you're going to do it right, you want to do it right, you got to do a historically accurate movie
Which is why
on Spartans.
when he was like, "Oh, those Athenian boy lovers," and I was like, "Wait a minute,
Yeah,
hold on, dude.
exactly.
You're from Sparta, dude.
Yeah.
You're in the gymnasium, which means like
Yeah.
naked in Greek or something." So of course,
There was a lot of man fucking going on, but it was normal. I mean, I'm not saying that they should do it because it would, somehow or another discredit them, but it is historical fact that the people that lived back then engaged in much more homosexual activities than we think of today.
in that particular area,
yeah,
yes.
in that particular, the Greeks and the Romans and the Spartans and all those fucking savages, they were banging each other. They always were. And it was a part of life. It was a normal thing. And men having boys for lovers. And that was like, I mean, how many philosophers had said, hey, that's not real. It's not a Spartan. That's your boyfriend, you fucking son of a bitch. Who put that? You put some gay guy up. Don't do it again, you fuck. Put it down. It's not, I mean, how is that? Well, you're talking about murderers and warmongers. You're talking about people that
Right.
constantly engaged in the slaughter of people. Like, why would it somehow or another discredit them if they had gay sex? Like, who gives a shit? But it is the reality. The reality is like this picture. That's a real depiction of a real gladiator and a real young boy, and because that shit was like super common.
Well, some people thought in that particular age that the only true love that could exist was between a man and a young boy. That's unfortunately how that society chose to. I mean, that in other words has been used in a lot of times I've seen to taint the arguments that are made for gay rights. When people say, "Oh, well, now they're going to want children," that has absolutely nothing to do with that. That's a different, complete era of time in which people didn't have adulthood defined the way we do now. And I think that's the problem that engages. And I'm not being an apologist or excusing it. It's just that when, let's say that it's the year 1200, you become an adult not when you hit 18 years old. Most people die when they were like 30. So if you're 18, you're damn near like the equivalent of like being a middle-aged man. But if you think about it, during that particular
how dare you, Spartans?
hey.
Yo.
That's not where you're supposed to put that.
Put down your rock real quick.
Yeah, this is called back mount. You see how one of them is muscular and the other one is not?
broke back
Wow.
You
Greek.
see that? Look, close in on the guy on the bottom. Even back then, they had tops and bottoms because there's like one dude who just clearly is the one who's going to get fucked every time. And the other dude is going to do all the fucking. See, look at the guy on the bottom. He's all smooth and shit. Doesn't look like he does his sit-ups. Doesn't do his squats. The guy on top is very ripped. The guy on the bottom is kind of doughy.
The other guy on the
Barely
bottom's
keeps it
getting
together.
ripped too.
He gets tired. He gets tired easy. The guy on the bottom needs a lot of naps.
Yo,
But you couldn't have a movie like that. If you had a movie like that where you showed the true lives of the
Well,
Spartans,
well,
people
Oliver
wouldn't
Stone
be able
with
to
Troy.
deal with it.
Right?
Yeah,
No,
but did they have a lot of gay sex in that movie?
No, not Troy. Alexander, I mean.
Alexander.
Oh, it was
Remember-
gay because Colin Farrell was the lead.
Him
It
and
was the
whatever
guy,
the
right?
other dude was in there.
Handsome
But let me
guy.
ask you something. In the MMA, where like you have your balls in someone else's face and they're on the ground, are you allowed to talk shit? Are you allowed to talk
Easy.
shit like that?
Absolutely.
You
can
have to
talk
be
as
like,
much
"Yo,
shit as
suck
you
my
want."
dick" when you're on the floor.
Yeah,
and
you
be
could
like,
if you want
"Yo."
to fuck with a guy's head, you could definitely do that. As long
Do
as
people do a lot of that shit?
Oh yeah, there's some dudes. Nick Diaz talks mad shit during
Yeah.
every one of his fights. Every one of his fights, he's standing in front of people going, "What bitch? What bitch?" Boom, and then it pops you. Oh, I'm fucking you up, bitch. Like he'll talk shit to you while he's
No,
fighting
I don't
you.
mean that white frat boy swag shit that they pull
No,
right
no, no,
before
no,
the
no,
cops
he's
come. I just mean like
Nick Diaz
like,
is Mexican, first of all.
No, but I'm just saying. I know. I picked that up on it when the Diaz came out. I'm just saying. That's just what I hear. Oh, man, what's up, bitch?
It's
Well,
like-
let's do this right now. Like, oh,
When you're-
officer, that man accosted. That's the way I see all the time at schools when I used to wild out. My thing is this though.
Yeah,
No
but you're not
disrespect.
talking officer. We're talking about an MMA fight. We're talking about
Right,
a fight that's happening no
I
matter
mean,
what.
But I mean, in terms of the sexual portion of
Oh
it.
yeah, I'm sure guys do. I'm sure guys fuck with guys. Look, if someone's gonna fuck with you and try to get inside your head, they're gonna try to do it by any means necessary.
Right.
Whatever
But
words
there's
they
no,
can use.
but there's
to
no
piss you
limit
off.
on that. Like for example, other sports they have a limit to what they can say, and then they're like, "Oh no, this is like too." Like, didn't they get in trouble on some shit in the NBA where they were talking about somebody else's wife, or you're only allowed to say certain things? Or you're talking about somebody else's kids in
Yeah.
your ear. Like for example, in certain soccer leagues, you're not allowed to mention somebody's family or talk about racism.
Oh, like when you're in a scrum. Oh, I know that football players are notorious for that, for
course.
saying the darkest, most evil shit to someone on another team.
I'm gonna rape your baby.
Yeah.
Or someone, dude.
You got a beautiful kid. I'm gonna fuck its face right after I pound you into the ground. Like dudes have, without a doubt, said shit like that. It's
there's no-
psychological war, man. Trying to get you to lose your cool.
But similar to the way some sports regulated. Should it be regulated, Joe?
No, it's free speech.
Anything that you say in terms, your house is on fire right now.
Well, that's different.
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
no,
you're in a, look,
house-
first of
you're-
all, you
this
saying in the middle of a fight, you
Right.
can't. Yeah, you should be able to say your house is on fire. How the fuck would you know my house is on
Right,
fire?
right. Or you know what?
Get your dick out of my face. Stop talking shit about my house. What is this?
This is
Why don't you pull it down so we can read it?
yeah. So this is a New
Carmelo
York Knicks
Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony.
Carmelo.
Estranged from wife Lala, whatever.
Lala.
What is it about? What is it about?
He,
Why are you putting this up?
he pretty much said a comment like when he was playing, "Your wife tastes like Honey Nut Cheerios," and it just.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh,
Yo,
so he's
and-
getting in trouble for that.
You know what's funny? Melo was
I bet she
waiting.
does though. Let's be honest, she's pretty.
Melo was waiting for him apparently, in where they go to walk to the bus, like right there. He was supposedly waiting for him.
Oh, look, he's gonna kick his ass.
I mean, I guess
And they were both on the same team together.
No.
No,
It's
different teams.
It's different teams.
Well, that's a choice he's gonna have to make on his own. Yeah, listen, man.
Honey Nut Cheerios. Interesting.
Dudes talk shit. It's part. Look, if
At
you
what
if
point-
you
no,
do
no.
talk shit like that, you're clearly an asshole. You're clearly a
Right.
piece of shit as a human being. And if you're willing to be a piece of shit as a human being just for just to win, you can win without that. You can win without that and be healthier. Especially fighting. I mean, the odds of you really getting inside a dude's head and causing him to do something that's going to make him lose the fight, they're fucking professionals, man. The dudes who are really good. Stop, Brian. Stop putting shit up. It's distracting.
But isn't
the
that
dudes that are winning, man? They're fucking samurais. They know what the fuck they're
But
doing.
but wouldn't the professionals know what to say to get into someone's head?
No.
Isn't that a
No,
part
no,
of,
no, no,
but
no,
isn't
no,
that a part of warfare?
No,
all
a
the time?
lot of guys are not good at it at all. They're the greatest
Misdirection,
fighters ever.
Misdirection, distraction. Yeah, of course you have the silent warrior. Now you're the one who's romanticizing. it.
No,
the
no,
silent
I'm not.
warrior who
This
will
is-
just sit there praying at some Buddhist temple until he gets up like Ken and Ryu and goes and beats the shit out of his opponent and then fly back to Thailand so he can sit under that fake statue and fight Sagat later. No, I mean, dude, he's gonna say some fucked up shit in your ear.
Not always. Listen, man, you're wrong. This is why you're wrong. The greatest fighters almost always are martial artists, like real martial artists. The guys like George St. Pierre, the guys like Lyoto Machida, these guys, they're not shit talkers ever at all. They follow by the true martial arts principles, and that's one of the reasons why they're so good. They don't carry the burden of shit talking. When a guy like Chael Sonnen talks mad shit before a fight, look, Chael can obviously back it up. He's obviously a very good fighter, but make no mistake about it, there's a tremendous pressure on him because of that shit talking. On top of the fact that he's got to fight. That is an extra opponent that you have inside the octagon, knowing that if you lose, my God, you're going to look like a fucking idiot.
Right.
That shit is real, and it's an enemy, and it is also enforcing the ego, which is, it has to be left out as much as possible in any situation where you're dealing with extreme pressure.
But then what
because it shows character.
Right.
Cracks.
But then what about a guy like Muhammad Ali?
Muhammad Ali was
a
brilliant boxer, and he was a brilliant sportsman, and he figured out how to get inside a lot of people's heads and defeat them there. But he would have been able to do that just by boxing them. Look, it was beautiful what he did because it was entertaining for all of us, and he, by doing that, he also called a tremendous amount of attention to himself. But you know, what I think he did was a form of the extreme braggadocious nature of the way he would talk was so obvious that it was almost like theater. Like Howard Cosell said to him, "Champ, you seem truculent." He goes, "Whatever truculent mean, if it's good, I'm that."
Right.
Like just that. That's
being
beautiful.
In
theater.
In somebody's ear, saying whatever you're gonna say to him.
You can if you want.
You see him doing that at that particular time.
Sure.
But people wouldn't think he's wrong for that. But someone would think that someone who's talking shit on the football field, saying reckless things about someone else's family, they're wrong. They're wrong for that.
Well, wait, first of all, people definitely thought he was wrong for that.
No, I'm not saying
with the perception of Muhammad Ali.
I'm saying you. Do you think he's wrong for that?
No.
Okay.
Well, I don't think anybody's wrong for anything. I told you I think you should be able to talk mad shit on the football field too.
But you said that people who do that are a douchebag.
Yeah, they are douchebags. Oh yeah, he was definitely a douchebag to Joe Frazier. He was 100% a douchebag to Joe Frazier. He used to bring a gorilla, a rubber gorilla, during the time of the 50s and the 60s, rather, where you're dealing with. This is when they grew up.
Right.
Ali and Frazier grew up during the worst racial time in all of history, and Muhammad Ali in the history of this country.
1860 was probably worse than.
It's pretty bad, but I mean, as far as like the turn of the times, the dealing with Martin Luther King, all the race riots, the civil rights struggles, and then you're also dealing with a new medium, which is television, and you're dealing with this face that is not only is this guy an incredibly controversial figure, but this guy's also a black African American who doesn't want to fight in Vietnam War, and he's holding up a gorilla. And he's calling Joe Frazier an Uncle Tom, and he's hitting this gorilla doll, saying that he's a big, ugly gorilla, Joe Frazier, and he's setting Joe Frazier up to be like this Uncle Tom with the white man champion that doesn't question anything. Well, he savaged that guy's reputation, destroyed that guy's mind. Joe Frazier hated him forever, and they could have just fought. They could have just fought. You know, they could have just he could have left all that racist shit out of there. Could have left all that Uncle Tom shit out of there. He chose to do that. Was he a douchebag? Look, man, I'm just an observer watching a guy live his life. But he was definitely a douchebag to Joe Frazier. Joe Frazier was pretty open about it. He hated that motherfucker for a long time because of that shit.
He used to make fun of him even when he had like Parkinson's and all the other shit about that.
Oh yeah. Joe Frazier, he taunted Muhammad Ali shaking and all that stuff. I mean, he was upset for a long ass fucking time. And when he knocked Muhammad Ali down with that left hook and won that first fight, make no mistake about it, a lot of people were fucking happy that Muhammad Ali, the draft dodging black man who talks all that shit, got beat and lost his title to the guy who's like a good family man who goes to church allegedly. Yeah, he's a fighter. He's a fucking. They're all crazy. Every fight is crazy. You know, you're fucking throwing bones at a man for a living. You know, it's a nutty way to get by. But he was the preferable one because he was much more humble and wasn't this guy. You know, I shook up the world. He wasn't that guy. He was a different guy. He was just a tough guy from the streets of Philadelphia. It's a totally different situation. But people definitely hated Ali because of his talking shit. They always hate guys who are confident. There's always going to be people that want to chip you down when you're that confident.
Is Anderson Silva coming back?
Who knows, man? It's a hard injury to come back from.
You tell me. Is he going?
I don't know.
Any predictions?
I wouldn't have no idea. First of all, I'm not a doctor. Second of all, I don't know what's going on in his head. You know, you get the psychology of a guy who loses twice in devastating fashion like that. Once by catastrophic injury in a fight that he's quite honestly losing. He lost that first round in a pretty big way.
He was losing that fight.
In a big way that first round. And that guy was gaining on him. That guy's a scary guy, that Chris Weidman. He's a fucking beast. And he beat Anderson twice.
I saw some videos of him fighting other people. He's a monster.
He's a monster. He's a really tough wrestler who grew up getting his ass kicked by his brothers. Those are the most dangerous motherfuckers. Yeah. Those the youngest kids of a family full of savages. Dad was like a pro football player, all stud athletes. House full of stud athlete dudes. You have to be tough as fuck to be the young brother.
Right, they probably broke a bone of his or two growing up.
They dropped a metal plate on his head. He was like relaying all the different times he was bullied by his brothers. And what happened? They created a guy who gives zero fucks and will punch your face in. I mean, that's what he is. And Anderson Silva just couldn't hang with that 2 times in a row. Call all the showboating and all that stuff aside.
He was showboating the first time during the first fight. And
he was, but one of the reasons why he was showboating is because he was getting smashed when he took him down. He wanted Weidman to keep that fight standing, where he has the best advantage. Because Weidman took Anderson to the ground early in the first round and hit him with some vicious ground and pound.
No, I saw
Stung him, rolled his eyes back in his head. He hit him with a couple hard shots, one very clean right hand that without a doubt Anderson saw some sparks, without a doubt. And he knew that that was a real dangerous position. He couldn't hold this guy back for very long. Holding on to him on the ground is tough. He's too strong. He's too good of a wrestler, and he hits too hard. So his best chance was to get this guy to stand up with him. So he started getting cocky with him, talking shit, trying to get into his head. And that's what actually cost him. What cost him was him not fighting like a martial artist, was him being like a guy trying to play psychological warfare. Instead of just fighting with perfect technique, he got the guy to stand up with him. If he can keep that fight standing, he should have the advantage. He's much faster. His technique is about as good as it gets in all the land. There's no better stand-up striking technique than Anderson Silva's. But in goading that guy into an ego battle, he took some chances, and then he got cracked. So I don't know if he's coming back, man. Those are two big losses. You know, I mean, he says he wants to.
He's not in. He's towards the end of his career, not towards the beginning.
Allegedly.
Right.
You know, some guys can stretch that shit out. What's crazy is guys like Bernard Hopkins, who are 10 years older than him, and Bernard Hopkins has one of the light heavyweight titles in boxing. He's a 175-pound champion, and he's almost 50 years old. I mean, no one's ever done that before. But Bernard Hopkins fights exactly the opposite of Anderson. He's very safety, technique-oriented. If you watch how Bernard fights, he's a master. He's a master with his footwork. He's a master of positioning. He's always in a good place. You're always in a bad place. He's just been around for so long. And he knows how to get guys out of their head. But the way he gets guys out of their head is he fights rough with them. He gets dirty with them. He pulls on their heads a lot. He leans on them. He fights rough. He fights real rough, and he'll force a boxer to get into these clinch wars with him, almost like an MMA fight where he wears the guy's arms out, makes him too tired to punch. And then, you know, I mean, he did that to a lot of dudes. He did that to Felix Trinidad. He fucked Felix Trinidad up.
I remember that.
Fight a lot of people didn't see him winning. He was an underdog.
He stepped on the
PR
PR flag and all that. Yo, they had a green light on him in New York.
I remember that.
Back in the day, yo, mad Puerto Ricans were like, yo, green light on that nigga. They were literally gonna put like a spear through his heart when he came up here. But he squashed all that apparently. I don't know how, but I'll just let it know. Once upon a time, it was very real. And when back in the '90s, if you had beef with a Puerto Rican, you had beef with a million of them.
It was the 2000s.
They was not playing.
It was the 2000s that he fought Tito Trinidad. I don't remember the exact year, but
no, it was like It was like literally 2000. But all right,
was it
leaking into that? Remember the Jerry Seinfeld thing? He had beef with the Puerto Ricans. What was that?
Jerry
over?
Seinfeld did?
Yeah. What was it over? Was it over the PR parade? Like they had like an episode where they like
they're making fun of the parade.
Yeah, where like, they then people were calling it racist and all this other stuff. But yeah, he had to squash the beef with the Puerto Ricans.
Dude, it was right after September 11th. It was actually September 29th, 2001, in Madison Square Garden. Crazy.
Yeah, he stepped on the flag. He apologized afterwards. He said
they actually had to move it because it was supposed to be September 15th, and that was right after September 11th. So they
it was in Madison Square Garden?
Yep, and so they moved it to September 29th. Wow, that's crazy. And he beat the shit out of Felix Trinidad. That was a masterful boxing performance. Masterful.
No, I remember that fight.
It was genius. And then he fought Kelly Pavlik, and that was another genius performance. I mean, that was another fight where it was a dangerous fight against a real knockout puncher, and he just boxed circles around that kid. He's just so technical, man.
So who's gonna fight the Weidman dude now?
Well, Weidman's going to fight Vitor Belfort.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's an interesting fight. Well, it's also interesting because there's a real controversy regarding testosterone use because Vitor has a testosterone use exemption, and he's been fighting in Brazil, apparently has low testosterone, so they give him the license to take testosterone like all the time. So he's essentially taking hormones, taking male hormones, and Weidman is not. So Weidman is fighting completely naturally with no enhancement whatsoever, just being a young guy with normal
But they use supplements and all kinds of other shit.
Maybe,
too.
I don't know what he uses. Some guys don't use shit. There's some guys that fight in the UFC that don't use a goddamn thing. They just eat healthy food and drink a lot of water, and that's it. There's quite a few guys who do that.
Right.
Some guys take a variety of different muscle-enhancing supplements. You know, there's like testosterone boosters that are legal. Like there's one that Onnit sells. cells called T+. It's shown that people like weightlifters were showing that it increased their ability to lift weights in double-blind placebo studies where you're not using, using essentially a giant group of people. They don't know what they're using, and the people that were using T+ got higher improvement in their weightlifting. So there's a few things that you can do, but for the most part, most of the guys that get on it, they get on the synthetic form. They get on the synthetic form of testosterone. So there's like a few different T+, and there's a couple other test boosters, and there's a few routes that are supposed to work. Like Tribulus is supposed to have a small effect, and there's another, what is it, Long Cat or something like that. I forget. There's another one that's supposed to have some sort of an effect, but for the most part, it doesn't have anywhere near the effect that actually taking testosterone will have. So these guys take it, and Vitor is taking it, and there's a dispute as to whether or not he's going to get licensed in Las Vegas. And if he doesn't get licensed to use testosterone, then he has to get off of the testosterone and then fight Weidman. And if that happens, man, that's going to be really fascinating because his hormone levels are going to be all fucked up. If he's used to taking an extra natural form of testosterone, injecting it into his system, and then he stops doing it, his body's going to have a much lower level of testosterone in his training camps than even a regular person
human being
would.
He would have much lower.
It'll drop off. Yeah, because his body's been used to getting it externally. His body's not producing it anymore. So it's really interesting. They'll have to kickstart his body's production of testosterone, which is like, wow, that's crazy. So it's controversial in that respect, but skill-wise, it's a very dangerous fight for both guys. Weidman is a fucking beast, but goddamn, Vitor Belfort looks scary as shit lately. He took out Dan Henderson in the first round. He took him out in a way that no one's ever taken Dan Henderson out like that. Yeah. His striking is just horrific. It's very, very scary.
I went to like a mixed martial arts competition, but like it was like a local one that one of my friends was supposed to fight in. But he got injured, and so he didn't fight at the end. But I ended up watching it, and it was actually pretty interesting. It was like in Long Island, and it was like a small gym. It was full of like a few hundred people, but it was really interesting. Like I saw the difference in kind of how they run those local spots, and I've never actually been to one of those big MMA things. So
tell me when you want to go, man. I'll hook it up. Tell me when you want to go.
Eddie Bravo.
You heard it. You heard it here.
No, that's jiu-jitsu. You just give me a day. Just tell me which one you want to go to, and we'll hook it up.
No, I definitely want to see it, man.
You got to come.
No,
what are you doing February 22nd?
Holy shit. That's my birthday weekend.
Vegas.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is.
Come on, dude.
There it is.
What were you planning on doing?
This is what he's
You
doing.
see that feeling? That's the feeling you get when you're anticipating a hangover. That's what you just did. You went,
what's the one after that, just in case?
Well, there's a big one in Dallas after that, a huge one. It's for the welterweight title, and it's at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. So that's a gigantic event. So you can go to that one if you want. That one, I'll give you the exact date of that. That is, that's in March. I think it's March. I want to say 15th, but hold on a second. I'll tell you in 1 second.
Yeah.
Is it March 15th?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is going to be gigantic. That is 50,000 people, man. In Dallas at Dallas Cowboy Stadium. That's probably the best one to go to because it's going to be historic.
That's the title fight?
Yeah, there'll be a new crowning of the welterweight championship because George St. Pierre stepped down, and so the guy who I thought won the decision, Johnny Hendricks, I thought it was a bad decision. And I'm a huge George St. Pierre fan, by the way, of him as a person and as a fighter. But I thought, with all honesty, that the decision was incorrect. I thought Johnny won 3 rounds to 2. So he's going to take on Robbie Lawler. So that'll be the new UFC welterweight champion. Dude, you got to come to that.
So he vacated the title, and now they're gonna brawl out.
Yes, and there's also Carlos Condit is fighting Tyron Woodley, which is fucking madness and chaos. That's gonna be an insane fight. That's an insane fight. There's a lot of insane fights. Diego Sanchez is fighting Miles Jury. That is a great fucking fight. Miles Jury is a beast, real tough young kid, and Diego Sanchez is the definition of the word savage. And this Cuban motherfucker, Hector Lombard, you ever seen him fight?
No.
Holy
I heard of him.
Shit, is he scary.
I heard of him.
God damn it.
He's a monster?
He's a monster, dude. He's an Olympic judo specialist who doesn't even use his grappling, just knocks people the fuck out. He's a super athlete. And he just fought Nate Marquardt and put him away in the first round in a mugging. And Nate Marquardt's the former Strikeforce champion, and Lombard just mugged him. At 170, he's terrifying. He fought his whole career at 185. He's the Bellator champion at 185 pounds, but dropped down to 170, and he's just like a muscle. I mean, the dude has like 6% body fat and just shredded spring of just corded steel. And everybody just tries to get the fuck away from him, just throwing bombs at you.
The move that Weidman made. Weidman, pardon me. to the Weed Man. That's what I'm calling it. You the Weed Man, homie. I'm not gonna say that.
I bet
too
he's heard
recklessly.
that.
No, I'm sure he's heard it a million times. Yeah, he's like, yeah. You know, people call me that before I break their fucking legs, homie.
He wouldn't say that. He's a super nice guy.
No, he probably is.
He's a very nice
most
guy.
niggas that I know that really, really got it like that, they don't ever start problems. They just wait till the problems come to them, and they take care of it, and they keep it moving.
Well, the guy he's fighting is a super nice guy, too. Carlos Condit is fighting this guy, Jake Shields, who's a jiu-jitsu black belt, who's a world-class grappler. So it's a real interesting. The guy just beat Woodley in his last fight, so it's a very interesting fight.
And what about this, who's going to fight John then, John Jones?
John Jones is going to fight. He's going to fight in Baltimore, and he's going to fight Glover Teixeira, who's the scariest motherfucker out of all the 205-pound contenders. Glover is the fucking devil. He's scary. That guy's. Everybody knows that Glover was on the sidelines for 6 months. He had a visa issue, and he couldn't get to the United States, and he was fucking people up in small shows because he was one of Chuck Liddell's training partners, and he has been world class, like top of the food chain, world class for almost a decade now. Like Sokoju, before Sokoju made this big splash in Pride, he knocked out Little Nog, knocked out Ricardo Arona. Before he did that, Glover Teixeira fucked him up in the WEC. But Glover had visa issues. So for 6 years, everybody knew that Glover was like having real problems trying to fight in America, but he was fighting in Brazil and just beating the fucking shit out of people, man. He's a beast.
What was the visa issue?
He was Brazilian, and sometimes you have an issue getting the visa to fight in America.
The money.
He didn't have the money. He wasn't fighting for the UFC back then. He was fighting for smaller organizations, and you got to have a visa before the UFC can even sign you.
It's funny because we're gonna have a discussion later on today, down in like Chungking. We're gonna have a talk about immigration, and we were discussing this specific issue about. They were saying, oh, it's the law. All the critics are saying, oh, it's the law has to be enforced. It's not just the law. It's the law for poor people. Because when you're rich, apparently, and some of my friends that are lawyers that handle immigration cases, they'll tell me straight up, no, listen, there are rich families from places in Asia and the Middle East that when they want to come here, they buy a green card. And I was like, what do you mean buy a green card? And
Glover wasn't rich.
They set up a company in order to employ certain people here. It has to be a certain, it's like $200,000, $300,000. And when they pay into it, they immediately are given green cards to manage the business here as long as they employ a certain amount of Americans. But like you say, he probably just didn't have the people backing him up.
Yeah, you got to have mad cash to buy. You make a fake company in order to get green cards, but it can be done.
$300,000.
Look, if you're a really wealthy man from Iceland and you wanted to come to America and get a green card, I'm sure it could be arranged. And somewhere, guys got 1 billion kunars or whatever the fuck their money is. Whatever their money is over there. But my friend Glover, this guy who's going to be fighting John Jones, who also, I'm actually friends with John Jones. I love that guy. That's a tough fight. Tough fight for both guys. Glover is a beast, but John Jones is a goddamn freak athlete. He's a freak. And I think John Jones is going to be ultra motivated for this fight. I felt like he learned something. His last title defense was a tough fight against Gustafsson, who's a beast. It was a great, great fight. Really, really close fight. John won that decision, and I think, really realized he was in a war and has barren down. He's saying all the right things, and I think he's going to try to look to put on a show against this Glover cat. But Glover is scary as fuck, man.
When are they going to fight?
They're going to fight in Baltimore in April. Glover puts people to sleep, man. He puts people to sleep with one punch. He fought Ryan Bader, and Ryan Bader hurt him. Ryan Bader tagged him and wobbled him. And as Ryan Bader moved in to close the show, Glover Teixeira shut his fucking lights off. He's a monster, man. He's been around a long-ass time, and he hits fucking hard. We had his trainer, John Hackelman, was on the podcast, and he was talking about holding the mitts for this dude. And he's like, he hits you different. He's like, and Hackelman, by the way, was a kickboxing champion. Motherfucker's been around since the 70s, doing karate and kempo, and he's seen it all and then some. And he talks about Glover. It's like, when this fucking guy hits you, you feel the knuckles through your hand, like you're holding the pads for him. He's like, I've never felt it like that. He goes, I've never had anybody punch me that hard. He goes, not Chuck, not anybody. And he goes, Chuck is a murderous puncher. This guy punches even harder. He's like, it's like ridiculous, like Mike Tyson style punching power. He's like, if he hits you, you're fucked. And he did that to Ryan Bader. Ryan Bader tagged him, had him wobbled and covering up, and Ryan Bader moved in for the kill, and Glover just boom, just dropped a haymaker on him, and you see his eyes go sideways and his legs give out. Just motherfucker.
I
hits
saw a
hard.
fight recently. I forget who it was, but one person was really wearing down this motherfucker's leg. He was just working on the leg, beating the shit out of his leg, and then just hit him with the overhand right. Whooshing. Knocked dude out.
Well, there's been a few of those. You know, was it a kickboxing match or was it a MMA fight?
It was an MMA fight.
Was it the UFC?
I believe so.
It might have been Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza is one of the most scary guys when it comes to leg kicks in the UFC. He's one of the top lightweights. He's actually fighting Donald Cerrone. That's coming up soon. God damn, that's gonna be a good fucking fight.
I guess it's the American Airlines Center, Joe.
Dude,
not
is
the
there a lot of
okay.
Is there a lot of gambling at these events?
Oh yeah, in Vegas, 100%. The one, if you want to come to the Vitor Belfort Chris Weidman fight, that's in May. That's May 24th. If you want to come to that. That's going to be in Vegas. And I just hope, you see, if they don't give Vitor a testosterone use exemption, I mean, I understand what everybody says. It's not fair. I understand the logic. But if they don't give it to him, he really shouldn't be fighting for the title unless he can get his hormones back in order. I mean, if he's been taking testosterone for a long period of time, I don't understand how his body's just going to start magically producing it again on its own. Unless they figure out something that they could give him that'll kickstart his production of testosterone. But if that's the case, shouldn't he have been doing that in the first place? So I don't know. I mean, if the guy really does need testosterone, I hope they give it to him. Because if they don't, he's not going to really be able to fight.
Right.
Not to the same level that he's going to be able to fight if he's on it, obviously.
Wasn't Mike Tyson taking like pills or mood-altering pills when he fought Lennox Lewis? Somebody told me this story. They said
he was on antidepressants.
Yeah, he was taking some sort of medication.
Yeah, that's happened before.
I saw him kiss him on his cheek and all. He was trying to be nice to him. He said, "I love you." He said, "I love you." You know, not to make fun of Mike Tyson. You know, he's a monster even now. But I'm just saying, when I look at that, I'm like, all right, how could he not have been affected by that? You're on mood-altering drugs, and now they're asking you to fight for your life. And then at the end of it, you put a flower in a nigga's hair, and then you kissed him on the cheek.
Yeah, I don't know what he was on when he fought Lennox, but I wouldn't be surprised, man. He was high on drugs during major fights. He definitely said that.
Right.
That he was doing coke all the time, and he even used a fake penis to avoid detection. He used one of those fake rubber penises. He's a bad motherfucker, dude. I love the fact that he comes out and just tells everything about everything that he did that was crazy. It makes me more inclined to believe that he never raped that girl, first of all. And it makes me more inclined to sort of forgive him for being so fucking crazy. All the horrible things that he definitely did do. It's like the guy was living a wild, reckless life. He's telling you all he did. He's opening up the door. Like, this is all the shit I did. I was doing coke and fighting people.
Right.
And people are like,
oh,
I used a rubber dick. Like, damn, Jesus Christ. I think he's a classic story. In my opinion, he's the greatest heavyweight champion of all time.
You think so?
Yes. I put him at the top of the list. I think for a brief moment in time. People want to consider his whole entire career towards the end, out of prison, after prison, post-prison. But I think that before then, I think when he was in his prime, the guy that beat Larry Holmes, I think the guy that beat Marvis Frazier, I think that Mike Tyson is the greatest heavyweight boxer.
But he also had some old paper champion dudes that he fought, and a bunch of them. Obviously not the ones you mentioned, and then the Razor Ruddock fight was crazy. Those people really gave him a run for his money. He had to punish them as much as they were trying to punish him. But for some of them, for example, the Buster Douglas thing, he took that shit lightly. He walked in like it was whatever, and it went over with some other fighters, but not with Buster Douglas.
Well, that was also post-prison. He wasn't the same guy.
Right.
Wasn't it?
No.
No, I'm wrong. No, Buster Douglas happened.
Before.
Then all the crazy shit happened. Right. Then he went to prison, right?
Then he lost his title. And
then he came back, and then he came back and he fought Holyfield. And you have those Holyfield debacles. Those were fucking crazy when he bit Holyfield's ear.
Right.
That was all post-prison. You're right.
When he was he was saying that Holyfield was headbutting him,
Yeah,
which he does all
yeah,
the time.
he does.
When you go back and you look at all the tapes,
No doubt.
he headbutts everybody.
But Tyson did it too. I mean, they headbutted
Right.
each other. And the point being that Tyson didn't stay at the same level. When Customato died and then Kevin Rooney took over, I think he maintained that level for a little bit. But I think that the fame and the fortune and the madness were too crazy. When you have your own fucking lions, when you living in a gigantic 100 fucking room house and you bought 15 Bentleys, for every person you've ever met, he's a madman.
Right,
He
but you
can't
got a bunch
keep
of
that up.
freeloading ass people with you. But I mean, again,
But I don't think you can keep it up. But I think that when he was at his best, I think he only kept it up for a few years, like 2 years, 3 years. But I think during that time, he was the greatest of all time. That's my personal opinion. I don't think anybody ever sent shockwaves through the boxing world the way that guy did. When he emerged on the scene and just started starching people with fucking haymakers that came at the speed that Roberto Duran would throw them, yet it's coming from a guy who's 215 pounds and just launching motherfuckers into orbit. That right hook to the body, right uppercut that would snap your fucking head back.
That uppercut was when I see the old YouTube videos of him fighting. That uppercut is
The way he
murder.
comes up.
Like I don't know how someone's jaw was intact after that.
He was ferocious. But you can't keep it up forever, man. It's redlining. When you redline an engine, you go, bah, you get that bitch up to 9,000 RPMs, and then you gotta shift gears. Bah, you have to. And he didn't ever shift gears. He redlined it to the end.
Somebody told me, we were having this discussion about like music, and I went to the Berkeley College of Music, and I was telling kids, like, listen, people don't generally get rich off of music. What artists do is they take that nest egg of money that they do, or that they get from music, and they invest it wisely in something else. The richest rappers, quote unquote, are people who have made some money in music, and they say, oh, you know what, I'm going to start like a construction company or a contracting company, or I'm going to buy 6 Waffle Houses, or I'm going to get, a clothing company or whatever it is, and that's how they make their money. What is the twilight for fighters, Joe? Where do they fall back on?
Well, it depends on the fighter. It depends entirely on the fighter.
A restaurant.
Some guys become commentators, like Chael Sonnen. He'll eventually be a commentator for sure. He is one now. Rashad Evans is doing commentary now while he's fighting. Brian Stan retired. He became a commentator. Kenny Florian retired. He became a commentator. A lot of them are there, and they're also becoming judges. Ricardo Almeida is a judge in New York now, and he's also a lot of them are coaches. That's most likely the best path for them, especially the guys that still love the sport. They still want to be around the sport. Like Dwayne Ludwig is the coach of the year. He won coach of the year. Congratulations, my friend Dwayne. He won Coach of the Year for 2013, rightly so, because he did a tremendous job of transitioning between being a great fighter to being an even better coach. I mean, an amazing coach for this team alpha male. He just changed that whole fucking team. I mean, they're all striking like at a very high level now, much, much higher than they were before. So that's a good transition for Dwayne, and he's doing very well with that. But some guys, they just quit and go into business. Keith Jardine opened up a coffee company. He's a Caveman Coffee. That's Keith and my friend Tate, who also was a former MMA fighter. They opened up a coffee company. Some guys go into acting. Gina Gershon's like a famous actress now. Gina Gershon. God damn it, what's her name? Gina Carano. Gina Gershon's obviously a famous actress too. There was another rumor that Clinton fucked her too. That's why it was. I've been following all this. Oh, Jesus. Clinton fucked everybody. God, love him. The last American presidential dick slinger, ladies and gentlemen.
Yo, dude, what was he? They say he smashed out Liz Hurley.
Yeah. There's a picture of them staring at each other, looking at each other's eyes, and you're like, oh yeah, for sure. It's just too romantic. Them looking at each other.
But what was it? Wasn't it Tom Sizemore that was dry snitching? He was a dry snitch.
Yep, that dirty son of a bitch.
That nigga's a snitch.
He is. That's what I said. That's the first thing I said on the thread.
God,
I said, what this tells me is that Tom Sizemore can't keep a fucking secret.
Dude.
Yeah, that's weak.
Come on, man. And you gonna throw Bill under the bus?
There's the picture. Come on, son. Look at his eyes. No one escapes that dick. That dick's an octopus.
Dude.
It comes out and grabs everything. Look at her looking at him. I mean, that is like a dominant, submissive picture. If ever people were not touching, but one was encroaching. Look at his body language. He's leaning towards her. Look at her. Look at her left shoulder turned slightly away from him.
She wants to lay down right now.
Look at her.
Liz
dirty.
Hurley.
Two dirty people. I love it. I wish I was there. I'd beat off in the corner. I wouldn't say a word. Slick Willie tearing it up.
Oh my God.
I don't know how we got on that subject. We were talking about Mike Tyson beating the fuck out of people. And we got to that. That's just rude. That's just rude. The tits are tremendous. You don't need to fuck up the picture by putting Hillary in there. Get that picture down. You don't need to fuck up all of our minds by thinking about the guilt that he must have suffered right after he nutted. Not worth it, shit. Kiss on
and she knows. She knows.
No,
zoom in on the shorty right there.
And the one in the back is like, yo, it's popping.
Yeah,
she knows.
Yeah, look at her.
She fucking knows.
Oh my God, look at that woman. Oh wow. Yeah, not her.
That's George Washington.
It is George Washington. What the fuck is that guy doing? They play dress up. Look, Paul Revere is right behind him to his right. Look at this, Paul Revere.
Paul Revere.
Look at that
George
woman.
Washington.
That woman's a hater. No, the woman right there. Get up to her. Look at that face.
She knows. She knows.
That is the classic hater face.
She got the dick. I didn't.
She definitely
son
knows
of
that
a
something was
bitch.
going on under the table.
That woman,
she saw
as
through
soon
the
as
clear
they got
table.
in their car, her and her husband, she was like, that motherfucker, did you see the way he kissed Elizabeth Hurley? Oh, he's such a pig. I despise him. Rush Limbaugh's right. Look at him. Disgusting.
You know what's funny, though? When I heard about this, it was so interesting that I heard conservatives come out the woodwork. Who was it? I think it was Rand Paul was like, oh, man, this is terrible. The president should apologize. But wait a minute, homie. Where were you when Newt Gingrich was running for office? Because didn't he drop his wife and then deal with another woman and then deal with another one? I mean, isn't that the benchmark of men that are in power?
They're just looking to play gotcha. All these shitheads are just using that like it's points on a board.
Like nobody ever fucked nobody.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
please,
scored on
come
you.
on,
They
yo.
caught you. They scored on you. They got points now, and they're just going to use those points to try to shut you down and build them up. But it all just makes everybody look like a bunch of bitches. Because if that was going on amongst your friends, let's say if there was 10 of your friends, and one of your friends was not particularly happy with his wife's relationship, and so he started banging Elizabeth Hurley, and all you guys found out about it.
I wouldn't dry snitch. I wouldn't play Tom Sizemore. I'll tell you that.
If you went out and you snitch, no one would want to hang out with you anymore.
Right.
They'd be like, "What the fuck, Tech?
But
Come on, man."
But who's gonna party with Tom Sizemore now?
Not me. I'll tell you that, Tom. Go fuck yourself, pal.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Non-secret keeping motherfucker. I met Tom Sizemore. He's a cool dude. That's why I was shocked. I did a show called The List. And he came on, and it was like a thing for VH1. It was pretty cool, man. But I think it was him and Rob Halford from Judas Priest were on the same show.
Did he know, or was he secretly being recorded?
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if he even really said it. I'm just talking shit. Like I said, I met the guy. He's a nice guy.
Oh, supposedly he said it in some interview or something like that.
Allegedly. That's what everyone's saying. And there's a picture of him. Look, man, the dude also did a lot of drugs. He probably is not thinking so good. Like his judgment's quite suspect. He's not the kind of guy you would want to have some information. If Tom Sizemore finds out dead, Vince Foster style, on a hill with a gun attached to his thumb, and no blood at the scene of the crime.
Super ugly.
Yeah, The Strange Death of Vince Foster is a fantastic book. You want to talk about a weird death that appears to be murder. This was during the Clinton administration. There's a guy named Vince Foster, and he knew some things about some things, and a bunch of people knew some things, and Vince Foster might have been a liability. And he wound up dead, holding on to the gun in his hand with the thumb still on the trigger, which they say never happens. They say that when someone shoots themselves and you commit suicide, your hand the gun just goes flying. Like, you don't hold on to the gun. Right. The violence of a gun, like if you've ever shot a gun, you know that guns have a kick. Well, if you're not conscious, you're not going to hold on to that gun. And see where Vince Foster has his thumb like trapped in holding on to the gun. He's also lying down in an area where there was no blood. There's more blood missing from his body than was at the scene of the crime. His body was moved. Somebody moved him there. Doesn't mean that he didn't kill himself. He still could have killed himself. He could have killed himself with a gay lover, and the gay lover wanted to cover up the story, so he grabbed the body and dropped it off somewhere and put the gun in his thumb. Who knows? And I'm just making that gay lover part up. I don't know why I went there. I just had
Because
to.
you've been
That's what I
staring
do.
at two of those images that Brian Redman keeps bringing up with the fucking Greek shit.
Whatever the reason
Don't cue
was,
that, please,
or
Jesus.
whoever killed him, it's most likely that whether it was he killed himself or somebody else killed him, they moved his body and they put a gun in his thumb. It just doesn't add up. Add up. It's a strange case because that's when the Whitewater shit was going on.
Right.
Not Whitewater. What was the land deal that the Clintons were involved in?
Whitewater. They lost money on the deal, supposedly.
Wasn't Whitewater the Nixon shit? No. No. What was the
Watergate was the
Watergate.
Nixon shit.
All this water talk. Water is a problem with presidents.
You know what's crazy? I'll tell you a personal story. When I was incarcerated, I was in Pennsylvania, and I was processed through an area, and there was this district attorney named Ray Greekar who disappeared. And I know the people who are watching from Pennsylvania, they know the story. Shout out to PA. And the crazy thing is that he was investigating the Sandusky thing.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that they found his fucking laptop without a hard drive.
Right.
And he disappeared.
Gone. And the ASA that tried my case was then disbarred after maybe 2 or 3 cases after me for tampering with evidence. Supposedly there was some shootout and like he had removed shell casings from the scene of the fucking crime.
How about that other judge in Pennsylvania that got accused of sending kids to juvie homes?
Yeah, he was
sending
selling
kids
children.
to jail, selling them for money.
He made $3 million over the course of fucking 10 years.
Unbelievable. The guy's a judge, and he's making sure that kids go to jail
For paper.
for money. Oh God, that's crazy.
There's not a hole small enough or dark enough to shove him in, dude.
No, you gotta kill that guy. That guy, they should put him in a corner, and some parent, you give a parent the gun, and you go in, you shoot that fucking guy in the head, and you feed him to pigs. That's it. It's over. You don't let that guy rot away and live in jail. He chose to take children and put them in horrendous situations where you know they were sexually abused.
Right. They were physically tortured.
100%. And they could have been let free. And they could have enjoyed their lives. They could have got their shit together. They could have been musicians or comedians or athletes or whatever the fuck they could have been without that horrific life experience that they were forced to endure because of a corrupt judge. Shoot that motherfucker right in the head. Throw him in a box. Let the rats eat him. Throw him in the ground. Let the worms digest his body. Fuck him. Fuck his tombstone. No coffin. Get in that hole, stupid. Make him dig his own fucking hole and then shoot him right in the dick. Fuck that piece of shit. Fuck him, man.
Just throw him with the sharks.
The crazy shit is, though, that a lot of people never made that connection between his disappearance. And it was only something recent that happened. And
still not, they're not investigating it. You know, you're not hearing a word about it.
Well, I mean,
it should be something that's like...
I think that area in PA is a little like that Steubenville situation where it's all some like... local good old boys type town where, I'll be honest, I heard rumors while I was there. I can't confirm or deny them, and I won't say that they're true because I don't want to get sued. But the reality is that I always heard rumors that the judges in that county, or that 2 of them in specific, would drive drunk all the time home.
I'm sure.
And every single day a cop would follow them so that if they veered too far off the road, he would take them out, put them in his car, drive it, and then come back and get his other car.
100%. I wouldn't doubt it for a goddamn second.
Whenever someone had like an issue with drug addiction or something, like they would always clean it up for like a cop's kid or for the judge's child or something like that. So, I mean, when you talk about a tiered justice system, it's ironic that people say, oh, man, Technique, you make conscious music. And I always remind them, being conscious doesn't imply that you're going to do anything. It just means you know that something's wrong.
But I think that the consciousness of this society is much more aware. All the divide and conquer shit that we were talking about in the beginning of the show, that's harder to do today. Because I don't have a beef with Canada. I don't have a beef with Mexico. I don't have a beef with any part of the world. I've met people in other places, and they've been just like me, and I've talked to people online.
But you travel, Joe. That's different. Like you see a lot of different people.
You're right, but I think that this connection that we're all experiencing online is a very different way of experiencing the world.
Right.
And that the divide and conquer is almost impossible now. It's almost impossible as long as we can understand each other.
Now, let me ask you, if people, for example, they think that something's fake, they think something's not real, then they're upset about it. Let's say people found out right now that the Super Bowl was staged. just as much as something like wrestling would be. All right, now the injuries are real. Just like they say in wrestling, hey man, the wrestling's fake, but the injuries are real. I think that people would be on the verge of ripping the place apart.
Well, you could fix a Super Bowl, but to fake the Super Bowl would be
No,
huge.
not fake. But obviously, to say, all right, we would be more inclined if this team won or if this. And I know people would say that's so impractical, that could never happen. The World Series has been accused of being fixed several times.
This is what you could do. This is what has been done. What they can do is they can hire referees and make sure that the referees are paid for and bought off and bribed. And then if there is a situation where a questionable call can be made,
right,
where they can call it one way or the other, especially before they used to use instant replays, right? I mean, the instant replay thing clears up a lot of shit. There's a lot of things if a ball's not in, a ball's not in. If a dude's foot is out of bounds, a dude's foot's out of bounds. If you're looking at the instant replay, there's not much you can say. But before all that, man, god damn, they must have rigged a lot of games. I mean, didn't basketball referees
they got caught. They got caught. There was a fucking ring. There was a ring of them.
Out of Philly, matter of fact.
And what was going on? What was the story?
They had, I think it was like 12 of them.
And they were all referees?
Yeah, and they had it for years. Like they were just on the payroll and
hilarious.
They were connected. How they got caught is one of the bookies. Somebody they ended up tapping like a bookie's phone, and so basically the bookies was paying them.
Unbelievable, man. Well, it only makes sense when you think about the amount of money involved in gambling. That's the thought about fixed fights too. I mean, the fixing fights is not like the champion's paying you off to lose. No, the fixing fights is someone wants to bet a fuckload of money, Like here's a good example, and people have said I'm crazy for thinking this, but Manny Pacquiao, when Manny Pacquiao fought Tim Bradley won that fight in no one's eyes, but maybe Tim Bradley's family and a couple of people at home that really hate Manny Pacquiao. Most people saw Manny Pacquiao box his face off. They saw him, not his face off, but he won that fight. He won the fight. In my opinion, it was a terrible, terrible decision. But when you find out that someone voted, put the scores in, and that same someone put the same really ridiculous score in another fight, where it doesn't make any sense. And then you're watching over and over again, you're seeing these scores that don't make any sense. You're seeing these fights that most people thought one fighter clearly won, and they have two fighters or two judges will call it where it's the one fighter's winning by 6, 7, 8 rounds, and then the other one makes it a draw. And you're like, how the fuck could that be? Well, the way it could be is because then it's not a majority decision. And there's unanimous decisions, rather. It's not a unanimous decision. There's unanimous decision bets. So you can bet a huge amount of money that Manny Pacquiao is not going to beat Timothy Bradley by unanimous decision. You're going to bet a fucking that it's going to be a split decision, and everybody's going to go, "Are you fucking crazy? You really going to take that bet?" It's like X to 1. No one ever sees split decisions. Well, if one judge is paid off, just one judge, all they have to do is say it's a draw, and everybody else is like, "What the fuck are you talking about? What did you watch? That wasn't a draw." But the guy who makes the money is the guy who paid off the referee to make it a draw, or the judge to make it a draw, and they win that bet. Clean and simple.
The odds on the first scoring being a touchback,
safety.
I mean, were incredible. The odds were super sick. People got rich just off of that.
Yeah. And, I mean, I don't know if it's possible that you could just rig that. Is it possible?
That would be enough. I mean, that would be enough.
Is that possible to rig?
Yeah, you pay the center off. I mean, the center...
And so what does he do? What does he have to do?
I mean, the center basically threw the ball over, the quarterback's head.
Did he do it on purpose, you think?
I mean,
think he did it on purpose?
He didn't do that the whole season, pretty much.
Would you do it for $10 million?
I mean...
But then you got to account for that $10 million. You got to show why you have that $10 million.
Who's to say?
Maybe it's $10 million.
Cash is king in America, as they say.
They'll wash it to you.
Cash is king in America. We all know that.
A truckload of pussy shows up at his house. Just beep, beep, beep. They lower that back door like one of those aircraft carriers where they lower the door and fucking just
come out like Saving Private Ryan.
All the girls with keys come out.
Yeah.
Everywhere around the world.
It's without a doubt, we know that judges have been paid off. We know that referees have been paid off. We know that there's corruption whenever there's gambling.
I just think it's harder with fighters because at the end of the day, I mean, a fighter trains and I mean,
so
wait,
harder
wait, wait,
on
wait.
them,
It
but
looks
it's
odd-
easier to
more-
do.
It looks odd, but
Joe,
at least you
easier.
can see it. It's
It
more
looks
obvious.
Joe,
I guess
has
it's more
someone
obvious.
has someone got paid to throw a fight in MMA and UFC?
Not in the U. I don't know. I shouldn't say no. I says I don't know of them, but I do know of them in Pride. In fact, Eddie Bravo, they offered him a fight in Japan, and they told him in no uncertain terms that they can make it so that he wins the fight, and that they can make it so that he wins the fight any way he wants to win. And he thought it was a double cross. The way Eddie's like, what? What are you talking about? Like, you're gonna fix the fight? First of all, Eddie would never do that. He would never compete in a fake fight. He just wouldn't do it. He wouldn't be able to live with himself. I know him. He would never do it, no matter how much money they paid him. And if he did do it, he would tell people right afterwards, I did a fake fight. He wouldn't be able to handle it. He would say, look, man, I feel bad, but they gave me $500,000. I had to fucking do it. And he would just joke around about how it happened. He would never fake it. But what they did was they came to him and they told him that. So if that's the case, one of two things are going on. Either it would be a double cross where he would go there thinking it was a fake fight and that dude would beat the shit out of him and he couldn't say nothing. That's possible. Or he could go there and the guy would lay down. The guy would give up. Or they would have what they would call a hard shoot, or like a hard work. And a hard work is you're sparring real hard. The guy will kick you with some leg kicks. If shit goes wrong, you could get your jaw broken. You could get tagged and get knocked out. I mean, there's hard works where a guy loses that he's supposed to win because a guy got injured, because something went wrong. Sometimes things happen. But if you're skillful, you can make it look like a real fight. And there's for sure that happened in K1. For sure that happened in Pride. For sure, 100%. I know there's some dudes that told me themselves that they threw fights. They got paid a shitload of money, and they tapped out the Japanese dude. They got caught in, like, heel hooks or something like that. And the guy won, and he's a hero, and he's like a pro wrestler in Japan. There was without a doubt, there's been some fake
And then
fights.
he walks away with, like,
$1
million and, like, whale blubber or something.
It's possible, man. I mean, you could come up to some guy, you could take some fighter who doesn't make that much money, and if he doesn't have strong ethics, and you say to him, hey, man, look, we want to pay a lot of money down on you losing by submission to this dude, because, the odds of him submitting you are really small. So what I want to do is set it up so that, he doesn't even have to know. You just have to give him a submission. And so they would tangle, and, he would, like, give up an armbar or something like that, or give up his neck. Shoot in on a double, a real obvious double where you like literally lay in there for the guillotine and let the guy tap you. That could happen. I mean, it could also happen because a guy makes a brain fart and he forgets and he leaves his neck out there and a dude snatches it up and closes it on him. But it could happen that you give your neck up. And guys do give their neck up sometimes when they want out of a fight. Chael Sonnen has publicly said that he had some issues with that in his career with pressure, that he'd be in big fights and he wound up losing by submission. And it was like he felt like he gave them the submission. Like he wanted out of there, he left an arm, and the guy caught the armbar. Like he really felt like he just couldn't take the pressure.
I mean, like a subconscious thing telling you.
Yeah.
It's I talked about that before, about how there's a gentle complacency in failure. That sometimes people will say, you know what, I could have done that if I tried harder. And that's what they always say, as if to say, I could have done it. Like that was a possibility, but I just didn't try hard enough. That doesn't make sense for obvious reasons, but at the same time, that eases a lot of the anxiety and the tension that people feel, because it's like, all right, you know what? I had a chance to do this, and now I don't have to feel the pressure of dealing with, or I've found some measure of success, and that's all I really need to deal with. I don't care about anything farther than that. I got what I wanted to get out of this game, and that's it. And if I happen to get tons of money, then fuck it.
Well, there's some dudes that can definitely find a way to lose. And that psychological burden of trying to get your shit together and win, sometimes it's too hard for people, so they almost look to lose to get it over with. That's real. Some people can't take pressure. Pressure is a strange thing, and pressure of not knowing the future, the anticipation of something happening and not being able to control it, especially when it deals with physical violence, someone kicking your ass. Some dudes just turtle up. They turtle up, try to protect themselves, take a beating, and wait for the referee to pull them off. It's happened before. And then there's other guys that will never do that. There's other guys that will fight with their last fucking breath, and they're just
that
in their
warrior
nature.
code shit where they're just like, yo, you're gonna have to drag me out of here.
Yeah, it's in their nature. And then there's some guys that are just real intelligent. If they start getting hurt, they'll start tapping. Like George St. Pierre did that early in his career when he fought Matt Hughes. Matt Serra. Matt Serra was fucking him up, and he was like, whoa, I got to tap. He was just getting mounted and pounded on. He started tapping. lost his title to Matt Serra because he was getting fucking pounded on. But he knew, he's like, I am way too hurt. I'm not getting out of this one, and this dude's gonna put me to sleep, and then it's gonna be real bad if I don't tap. Some guys don't do that. Some guys rather go out. Some guys rather get choked out. They don't tap. War Machine, he's going to be on the podcast Wednesday. That fucking dude in his last fight, he got caught in a rear naked choke, decided not to tap, just went night-night. Got choked unconscious. The referee pulled the guy off of him, and that's what he said, hey, I'm never going to tap. Like, that's it. I'm fighting to my last breath. And if you choke me out, you choke me out. And that happens. In fact, his last opponent did the same thing. War Machine put him to sleep. Got the guy in the rear naked, put him out. Guy didn't want to tap, didn't want to lose. That's what happens. There's guys like that, and there's guys who just tap. They go, you got me. And then they go back to the drawing board.
Right.
It's hard to say who's more intelligent because I admire the War Machine approach, but I also admire the guy who realizes if I tap, I go back to the gym, and I still have a right arm. If I don't tap, my fucking arm gets snapped.
Right.
Then I have to go through rehab. They're going to put bolts in my arm. They're going to fucking have to put screws in there to keep
Torn
the fucking thing together.
ligaments, muscles.
It's going to be fucked for 6 months at least. It might not ever be the same again, even when it heals up. There's guys that have gotten injuries where they never came back 100%. And that's just part of the game. That's part of reality. So it's who's more intelligent? Is the guy more intelligent that taps, or the guy more intelligent that says, you know what, man, I'm going to figure out a way to win this fight, even though I'm in a terrible situation. And if he makes it, then he's a hero. And if he doesn't, he goes to sleep.
Well, most intelligent is probably the guy who's bribing him to lose.
No, that's the least intelligent.
Walking
That's
away with like $20 million.
he's gonna get in trouble. He's gonna get
Oh
caught.
yeah, where has he gotten caught yet doing that shit in the UFC? Has anyone got caught?
Well,
No.
did you see that Russian snooker player who got busted for snooker in English? The Russian
Snooker.
Russian organized crime was bribing this snooker. They call it snooker player.
I was just out there,
And they wanted this guy to miss shots. They wanted him to miss shots, just because he's a really famous world champion player. And I think it was Hurricane Higgins, let's say. But it was a huge scandal because they love their snooker in England.
snooker.
Yeah.
Yo, I had a great time when I was out there. I gotta say, England to me reminds me of like the same type of enthusiasm that people had in like the '90s for hip hop, where they're not afraid to boo somebody. You go to you go to New York, you'll get like an obligatory clap that's just like, oh, it's like this tepid sort of loose, like it's kind of like when your mom made you shake hands with your brother and you hated each other. It's like, hey, shake hands with your brother. Like, fuck this dude. Shake hands with your brother. I'm gonna smack you in the fucking mouth. Like, all right, thank you. Here you go. I love you, bro.
Yeah, that thing where you can't wait.
You know what I mean? But it's like the people
shit
in
out
New
of
York,
them, yeah.
you go to like an underground hip hop show, or you go to some shit, they'll sit through an opener that they hate. This is something I not that I love booing or something like that. It's just, it's funny to see people be like,
They're
I
being
really
nice.
don't want to be here.
Trying to be nice, Tech. Isn't that okay? Is it okay to be nice?
No. Oh, yeah.
No,
I come from an era where they were like, get him off the stage.
Oh, it still exists.
Yo, no,
it does. Certain areas, maybe not.
certain shows are like that. There's a difference. There's some people's fans that will not tolerate it. Like I saw someone waiting too long for someone to be on stage. A random fan jumped. He was waiting for Wu-Tang. He jumped on the stage. It was like, get Wu-Tang on here. And the fucking opener was like, oh, hold on, man. He goes, no, man, you suck dick, money. And I was like, God damn, yo, all that? Just because he's trying to entertain y'all while these motherfuckers smoking weed in the back trying to get this set together? What kind of shit is that? But it happens all the time, yo. But in England, I just feel like they just have like a more ruthless approach to it. Like I've seen people get booed the fuck off there. They really are like enthusiastic about it. I had a great time. It's just weird because when I walk around there and I meet people, they have no idea what I do if they don't know what I do. And they're like, I walked into a cab, for example, and this old man was like, what will you do for a living, sir? You strike me as a type of man to be an entertainer, perhaps a singer or a rapper. And I was just like, I looked at him and I wanted to be like, you racist fuck. Like, what makes you think that I'm... But then I thought about it for a second. I was like, no, actually I just teach, medieval history and the history of antiquity. And the guy's like, really? And
why are you lying to that dude?
No, because I studied with it for years. So I mean, I had a passion for learning about the past, like a few years ago, where I really, really got into it. So technically, at some of the prison programs that I've done, I've taught the history of antiquity. Like I tell kids, like, all right, the way that you or anybody in this room will believe in Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, people used to believe in these creation mythologies of Sumerian and Mesopotamian times. To give people an idea and an impression of a world that exists beyond there, where belief is not put into a concrete form. This could be someone's belief, but your belief doesn't necessarily signify that that's exactly what the world is. It's just what you believe the world is. You know, similar to the way people will flip a penny in the air and they think, oh man, it's just 50-50, and then take the same penny and flick it across the ground. And it's not 50-50, it's 80-20 that it's going to be tails, because the face of Lincoln is a fraction of a gram heavier than the actual monument on the back, or it was on the old copper pennies. So it would fall similar to the way if you're holding a TV and spinning in a circle, you're going to fall forward, not backward. So that's what a lot of them are getting. They think they're getting the 50-50 shot from the world, but you're not. You're getting spun across the table from the moment you come out the womb. You know, you're going to be in jail here, and then they're going to tell you, oh, we want to reintroduce you to society. How are you going to be reintroduced to a society you were never part of in the first place? But back to the point, this guy's like, you know, oh, you do? I was like, I teach middle-age history. He's like, antiquity? I was like, sir, you know what antiquity is. You know, Rome, Babylon, Greece, Egypt. He's like, oh, yeah. So I feel like he's tested me. And this guy's like, and middle-age English history, you say? I'm like, yeah, you know. I was like, he's like, whereabouts there? I was like, you know, oh, Essex, Wessex, Sussex, Kent, East Anglia, Mercia, Northumbria, which was divided in half along with Strathclyde when the Scottish king decided to pledge fealty to the British king, and they Dalradia and the rest. Yo, so the dude's like, what did you get into that? Sir, what made you interested in that? And I just looked and leaned over to him, and I was like, you know, to be honest, I was just really tired of motherfuckers mistaking me for some kind of singer or actor every time I stepped in some place. So I wanted to get some new shit just to tell people. And he seemed to be totally cool with it. They got a great sense of humor out there. I love it.
I'm a big fan of England. I go there, I try to go there once every year or so and do stand-up. That's a very unique crowd. Very unique crowd over there. Very smart, very well-read. Real, cool people, you know. Yeah. They heckle like politely. Like,
right. That's what I mean. You see what I mean? They heckle polite. It's not like they want to be a dick, but it's just like, hey, fun. I'll give you the alley-oop. If you can throw it back in my face, I'll take it. I'll be cool with it like that. You know what I mean? Like,
I like a good heckle, but it's hard to say what's a good heckle to somebody, because the people that suck at it are always going to suck at it. And they're like, oh, I'm going to get a good one this time. But no, you're not. You're going to ruin the show. Right. Some people can be smart and they know what to say at the right time, and it's funny. And other people, they just ruin the whole thing.
But some people plant hecklers, don't they?
No. Well, not that I know of.
Now.
Not that I know
they do
of.
To work off of.
I have never known a single comedian to ever plant someone in the audience and work off of them. If I've heard stories of doing it, it's all been hearsay. I've never heard of one person that plants a guy. I think it would be so obvious. I mean, people have had people in the audience as a part of a gag.
Right.
Like they've set things up. Like like Brian Holtzman used to always have people in the back of the whole audience ask him about his gay son. It was like a gag. It was a bit that he would do, and we would always do. Tell us about your gay son, and he would go, "Sir, there's no need to talk about that right now, but since it's been brought up," and they would tell this story about his gay son. It's a fake, just a bit. But that would almost be like, that's like the closest to a plant in the audience I've ever heard of. Have you ever heard anybody planting hecklers?
Yeah.
Who?
Let's see, who was that? Yeah, I'll think about it. I know there's somebody. I've heard of it before.
I've never heard. I don't know. I definitely, not a single one of my friends has ever done it.
But a good heckler will or any good, bad, someone that heckles you in the right way actually gives you fuel as a comedian, don't they? It makes you able to bounce off of stuff.
Depends on when they do it, because they could do it in the middle of a bit. It'll ruin a bit.
Right.
They could do it. I mean, I've had guys yell something stupid out with totally the wrong timing, and people pile on them and smack them in the head. I've seen violence break out because of hecklers, or people got tired of someone who keeps yelling shit out. I mean, people throwing drinks at each other, I've seen people throw chairs at each other because of hecklers. For the most part, hecklers are cunts. They're just annoying shitheads that need attention and don't deserve it.
I liked, I don't know if we played it the first time I was here, the Bill Hicks a response to the hecklers.
Oh, the woman was in the eyes.
Oh my God!
I've got carte blanche because I'm a cunt.
He goes,
I got cuts. I got carte
he
blanche.
goes, I don't have a cock. I can yell at performers, dude. I run into people like that. God bless their hearts. 99% of the people at the shows that I do are total soldier supporters, and then there's like the 1% that they're just there to just fuck around and play these stupid little games. And it's like I'm like, yo, please no flash, and they're like, well, why not? And I'm just like, listen, you take one flash photo a day, that doesn't bother you, but if I get 800 of these fucking things every day, I'm gonna go blind tomorrow. And they're like, well, can you just take mine then instead? I was like, no, you're not understanding me. You're going to turn the flash off or you're going to leave. Oh, well, I'm like, okay, you're drunk. It's the countdown to when my first name becomes fuck you. Get this fucker out of here. Leave. And the security's not here to protect me. They're here to protect you from me, because when I flip out, I'm going to snap your neck like a breadstick for fucking being next to me.
This is all violent talk, and I'm not really comfortable with it, especially in the confines of recounting a story that poor drunk fan, trying to have a good time.
Joe, you never beat up a fan that got
I've
too
never
crazy?
beat up a fan.
You never beat up a fan that got too crazy?
No,
you're fucking lying, dude.
I've never beat up a fan.
What about another comedian?
No, I never beat up a comedian. Never. It doesn't have to go to that. It's silly.
Oh, okay.
That's bullshit. He's fucking lying. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
I've never beat up a comedian, and I've never beat up a fan, and I wouldn't do it. This is stupid. I mean, if I'm fighting someone, it's to defend myself.
No, but the point I'm trying to make is 99% of the people that come to the shows are totally cool.
Damn, if it's that little, there would be more.
them.
That would be like if you had a 300-person show, there'd be 3 assholes. Every 300-person show, be 3 people screaming shit out. It's more than 99%.
But you got to understand. Usually those people get kicked out in the middle of it. Because honestly, hip hop shows, they have a lot of ejections. You know,
well, a lot of times on my shows,
drunk
people get
crazy.
kicked out before I get on stage. Like they'll be heckling the guys on before me, and the security at the venue will usually get rid of them before I get up there.
Do you bring your own openers to this stuff?
Yeah, always.
Okay.
If you don't, you get stuck with shitty comedians, man. You get stuck with dudes who will step on your material too. That's another thing that like bad comics will do. Even if they're not stealing, like say if you got a bit about Mike Tyson, they'll come up with a new bit about Mike Tyson and just do it right before you, so that the subject is already stale by the time you get. It's called stepping on your material.
We call it set tripping.
Okay.
Like you trip on someone's set. Like you take a piece of what they did on their set. Like maybe it won't be exactly the same thing, but you'll do the same call and response to the audience again and again, or you'll have a verse or a song about the same kind of thing, or you'll give an introduction or a speech about a song that has the same kind of connotation that somebody else will, and then that person, then the headliner gets on, and we're almost like, oh, well, we heard this already with the openers.
That was one of Mencia's tricks. Mencia used to do that right before he would bring guys up. He would do their best bits. Like he did this dude, Johnny Sanchez, man. He was a funny dude. He had this great bit about Iranians being mad at him for parking in their parking spot and yelling at him in broken English. He had this funny bit. And Mencia, they were taping a TV show. Mencia was hosting it. He just jacked his bit and did it right before him. So there's this big closing bit, and the dude's doing it right before he goes up there. And he's just like, wow. He's got no weapons. He's going up there unarmed. He's been, not only that, he's going up there with the emotional burden that this shithead just stole a bit right before he goes on stage. And it was that was what he would do. Like you would see him at the Comedy Store. He would do one of Paul Mooney's bits, and then Mooney would go on later on in the night and do the same bit. Instead of Mexicans, he'd be talking about black people. But it would be the same bit.
Right.
And like we already heard this Star Trek.
He would take
bit.
the top and take it out, and then put the other thing in there.
Yeah. That's a very extreme form of stepping on your material. But it happens all the time when guys, I talk to guys to this day that are on the road, and they'll be the headliner, and the middle act always wants to be the headliner. They want to one day be the headliner. They want to blow the headliner off the stage. They love people love saying, oh, this guy couldn't follow me. Yeah, I middled for him in West Virginia, and he couldn't follow me. People love that. So they'll fuck with you. Like, you have to bring your own guys. You don't want that sort of competitive sense, that backstabby bullshit. That's no fun.
So then what you're really arranging is a package deal for you and the other people.
I'm also arranging that the people who go on before me are really funny.
That goes without saying.
That's the most important part to me, because the worst thing you want to do is go on after someone eats it. When you go on after someone bombing on stage, it sucks, man. The crowd is in a bad mood.
Tell me about it, dude. Tell me about it.
They don't want to believe that they paid money to see this asshole talk. And you're not coming in.
And also, that person's associated with you.
Yes.
Like, as if, man, you brought this person,
You
Joe.
don't
What
even
the
know
fuck?
him.
Suck.
Yeah, you don't even know.
Yeah, they think you suck. And a lot of comics do that though, man. They stack the deck. They'll bring really shitty opening acts to make them look like a hero. They come in and rescue it. A lot of dudes do that. They bring terrible opening acts. It's really on purpose.
Or people. How about people who pay to open up?
Well, I know.
Is that big
no,
too?
I've never heard of that, but I know Tony Hinchcliffe.
No, it's got to be
opening up for a dude, and then the dude stopped using him and started using a guy who was way worse than him. And the only thing that made any sense was that he just thought Tony was too strong. There's guys that do that, man. There's a few guys that do that kind of shit. They want to make sure they're the star and that the guy before him doesn't make it hard for him.
right.
The audience thing I was thinking of, by the way, was I think Andy Kaufman used to do that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. Andy Kaufman was more of a performance
Showman.
artist.
He was a showman.
Yeah, I never thought he was a funny stand-up because he really wasn't. He was a really funny guy. He was a great actor. He was a fascinating character study. You know, he did a lot of weird shit. Like he would work at Jerry's Deli when he was on Taxi. He was on Taxi. He was on a hit sitcom, and he would work as a real busboy at Jerry's Deli. So he would go to Jerry's Deli and like wait tables and like clean tables.
That's
up.
probably where he got a lot of material.
Maybe.
Listening to fucking people that are rambling at some deli table in some shitbox place where he's working.
I think it was more of a performance art piece.
You
Like
think?
he wanted people to freak out at the fact that this guy who's on the biggest hit television show in America, Taxi,
Sitting there working.
he was working.
That's crazy. That is
washing
crazy.
tables. I mean, he would read books on stage. Like he would go on stage and play Mighty Mouse, "Here I Come to Save the Day" over and over and over again, and just stand there and go, "Here I come to save the day," and he would do it for like a half hour. Like it was like performance art more even than it was.
That
stand-up.
does sound like some avant-garde bullshit. I swear, if I saw that, if I paid fucking $25
Oh, was it shrooms?
with my,
He might have been on
my
shrooms.
God knows what the fuck he was on.
Yeah, he did a lot of transcendental meditation. I know that. He was a big TM guy. I think he might have actually been clean and sober and just into really like heavy meditation. But he did a lot of crazy shit. Like the thing he did where he was wrestling women.
He would Jerry Lawler, right?
Yeah.
That was
Well,
so
he would
ill.
he would do
Lawler.
pro wrestling and get really slapped down by these guys and get beat up by these guys. He would challenge them and then he would wrestle women. He would like say that he was the intergender champion wrestler.
Like exclusively. I'll fight any woman in here.
And they would all go crazy thinking he was serious. It was all performance art.
Right.
But it was, in that context, it's undeniably genius. I mean, what he did was incredible stuff because
Yeah,
it
look.
was just, he always lost, by the way, and he just made everybody angry. I mean, it was a performance. Look, if he wanted to, he's scrawny as fuck and all that good, but if he really wanted to, he'd kick that chick's ass. Come on. She's a small woman. He's letting her beat him.
According to the rules of wrestling, he's off the mat. I will give him 10 seconds to get back to the center of the ring.
Well, I'm not really.
And that's Bob Zamuda, who's his friend, who's the referee. It's a joke.
It in my concerts. I've learned a lot about it by just doing it. But I wanted to recapture the old days of the carnivals, where before
Is this
television,
in the main room?
wrestlers used to go from town to town in carnivals and offer $500 to any man that could last in the ring with them for 3 minutes. So I figured if I could offer a prize and make it like a contest, it could get
He gets
very,
to
very
like
exciting.
grab
It turned out to
women
be,
and
one of the
like.
highlights,
Yeah, he's
one
trying
of
to
the
pin her.
most
Now he's
exciting
actually pinning her for real.
concert. But I couldn't very well challenge men in the audience because I'd get beaten right away. Most men are bigger than me and stronger than me. So I figured if I challenge women, there are enough women who are almost as big or as big as me, who they would have a good chance to beat me.
I love that he said that with a straight face. I love that.
Joe, what was his alter ego's name? Remember he had created
Tony, was it called?
Tony Clifton.
Clifton. Tony Clifton, yeah.
Which was actually, never mind.
Yeah, that was his. Bob Zamuda still does Tony Clifton, right? Still puts on like an outfit and pretends he's Tony Clifton and says Tony Clifton's still alive.
Yeah, there's like a whole cult of people that believe that he's still alive, right?
Yeah, people believe Kaufman's. Well, they believe everybody's alive. Tupac's still alive. Kennedy's still alive. I've heard Elvis is still alive. I mean, nobody
Bruce
ever wants
Lee.
to
Bruce
believe.
Lee.
Oh, yeah,
I've
Bruce
never
Lee.
heard that one. You
Yeah,
heard
yeah.
Bruce Lee still
In the
alive?
hood, everybody talk about Bruce Lee.
Didn't you get in an argument with Tupac when he was alive back in the Dizzy?
Well, we were teenagers. I wouldn't necessarily call it an argument, you know. And
So that's a no, Brian.
luckily, and you know, luckily we talked about it before he passed, so everything is all good.
That's nice. Yeah, that must be an interesting thing though to know a dude like that, man. You know,
Right, for sure.
that's an interesting thing, right? Think about it. You know that dude, and then he vanished. One of the greatest rappers ever, right? And then gone. And then still, no one knows who killed him. That's what's really crazy about it. One of the most crazy things ever.
Yeah, the whole thing, the Biggie thing. Like it's like,
Yeah,
how
both
could you
of
not?
them.
How
Both
could,
of them, just
both
the
of
whole
them.
mystery.
Like, how
of
could
it.
you
insane.
not? How could it not be solved? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. How could it not be solved?
Right.
How could it not be solved? How is it possible? How is it humanly possible that in 2014 that hasn't been resolved? And then what? You ever read that Rolling Stone piece on the whole thing?
Right.
You find out the Rampart.
Yeah, the
you know,
Rampart.
Rampart
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
were all corrupt. Oh, it's fucking crazy, man. It's interesting too that era of rap, like those were the two prominent personalities, and both of them died in shootouts. You know, what a fucked up situation.
Yeah.
Like,
Does he know about
lost two great-
yeah, we were just talking
Oh,
about
he
that.
asked you about it.
Oh,
Yeah, he
he
asked you
asked
about
me
it.
about that.
Yeah.
No, that's crazy, man. To think that, you know, in the middle of the strip
Mm-hmm.
in Vegas,
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in Vegas.
With,
I mean,
with
everything-
all the surveillance
all the
cameras, with
surveillance,
everything, with
all the
somebody
lights,
looking.
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane to think that no one caught anybody. No one caught anybody.
I had read something about the guy. I can't recall the guy's name. The guy who last year was involved with the whole. He ended up being found in Bear Mountain and he burned him out. The former police
Chris
officer.
Dorman.
Oh, Chris
That some
Dorman.
kind of way there was intermingling with Rampart and that whole situation.
Well,
He
that's
said
much
that-
more recent. He was a police officer after that, but there's without a doubt, if there was the kind of level of corruption that Rampart had, there has to be something left over. I mean, the idea that they cleaned it off spick and span, nice and pretty clean, and polished it up, and
I mean,
no whatsoever. No,
They're having problems now with the sheriff department.
are they what in what way?
With Lee Baca, the same thing, that they have like a inner culture within the sheriff, and they favored certain police officers and certain people, especially with the whole, since the sheriff controls the jail systems in California. So a lot of them are getting, with corruption and bribery and.
It happens, man. Ultimate power corrupts. It's just nothing. There's no way around it. It's just
And
people.
basically, Sheriff Lee Baca knew about it and just turned cheek on it. You know what I mean?
he did a Joe Paterno.
Basically, I mean, And the thing is they caught like a core of them, and they have like, what happened is, Internal Affairs hired an inmate, and he's an informant. So the inmate was getting cell phones, drugs.
Oh, Jesus.
Whoa.
So they actually got an inmate to be, and he's the one that basically gave up the sheriff. And they kept finding out. So they built a whole case, a few years about it. And what they did is the sheriff moved the inmate, and they couldn't locate him. His attorney or his handler couldn't locate him inside the jail system. So it finally, the pressure came to Sheriff Lee Baca, and he just basically turned a cheek. And it took him for a while. Like, they started harassing him. Like, it got really, really serious because his handler couldn't find him. Like, what do you mean you can't find him inside the jail system?
Wow, that's interesting, man. Yeah, I think that's going to be real hard to do. Their whole culture, the culture of law enforcement, is having to adapt.
Yeah, it's a whole different.
They have to
especially-
adapt because people find out about shit way quicker today. It's so easy to spread the news. Social media,
The way-
having a camera.
People, like, I can't imagine all the abuses motherfuckers got away with before this camera came
Well,
on.
well,
Oh, yeah.
well, the funny thing about it is the actual phone that they snuck in and gave to him, and he was selling to inmates, was where a lot of that evidence was coming from, because the phone, he's taking pictures of everything. Why it's
Wow.
so it's already inside. And he's inside.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be harder and harder for those motherfuckers to do shit like that. But if there's anywhere they're going to be able to pull it off, it is in prison where they can control people so
But everything's
closely.
for sale in there. It was when Joe was locked. He was telling me crazy story that at that federal prison where he was at, they said that there was a scandal where like the guards the female COs had been selling pussy to the inmates.
That's so common.
It was like for 500.
Victor Conte said the same thing.
$1,000 a pound.
When we had Victor Conte, he was the guy who got busted in the Balco scandal.
Yeah.
Remember that with Barry Bonds, and they were selling
Oh,
those
yeah.
guys steroids. He was in prison, and they were all banging the female guards. The female guards returning tricks.
Wow, that's crazy.
I love it. That's American ingenuity.
You're in the middle of nowhere,
Look, what do those guys need? Pussy. What does she have to sell? Pussy. Let's make a deal. Let's make a deal.
Her husband is somewhere like, you were what?
Yeah, her husband, he probably fucking selling ass. Both of them together. They work in the same institution.
Shit.
Hey, easy.
Jesus Christ, Joe.
What, is that bad? Am I lying?
Joe,
There's no gay people that would in jail that want a good blowjob from a nice security guard?
Oh, God.
I'm going to have to frisk you. They probably had like a little game that they would play.
Keeping it real goes
What are you
wrong.
going to frisk
though.
my dick?
Keeping it real goes way wrong.
Don't make me suck it. I'm an officer of the law. You suck it.
Oh, God.
Give the guy a fat envelope that he had been hiding up his ass. Is that a
Female security.
it's a female security guard that you have to fuck? But you know what? You would take it, man. If you were locked up for a long time, that's better than nothing.
That's
Sold.
sure.
Yeah. So girls who would never be able to sell pussy on the outside, on the inside, that's a valuable commodity.
They're Miss American,
Look
man.
at Tech. He's checked
They're
out.
everything
Too many
in there.
images in his head for this one podcast. You can tell.
They're
Dude's
everything in there.
flabbergasted, shocked.
No. It's just funny because every time I turn around, you got to get Brian to stop putting shit up there. You're like, Brian, stop.
It's part of the fucking show.
distracting.
Shit, yeah.
Part of the show.
Stop.
It's the
Brian,
inner
you're
conflict.
distracting me.
Don't you understand? Society craves conflict. You can't just have a smooth running show. You have to have something. It's got to
So,
be some
Brian,
interior drama.
you come and do the openers for Joe sometimes?
I used to a lot. Now I have it done once in a while.
All right. So
He does comedy on his own
So
a
you
lot of
bring
times
so
now.
you bring your own openers, your little homies too.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you set them up like any hecklers and shit like that?
No.
Never.
That shit would be so obvious, man. I'm
No,
telling you.
it wouldn't, dude.
Oh, listen, it wouldn't be a smart thing to do, first of all, because it would be fake, and then the fake vibe would get out there somehow or another. It would sneak through the fucking
But how?
floorboards,
If it's part of
taint the
showmanship,
performance.
it's not. If you're not doing
Well,
it to be a
depends on
dick.
what you're doing.
Right.
It depends on what you're doing. I mean, you can set up something in the audience where you have like a fake fight with somebody, and the whole thing's like a
As a
grand
joke,
show.
right.
Yeah, you could do it. But the way I feel about stand up, if I went to see Joey Diaz, okay, he's my favorite comedian, and if Joey Diaz had someone go on in the audience and fake heckle him, and he had all these canned lines that he threw at that, and I thought it was brilliant, but then I found out that it was fake, I would feel sick. I'd feel grossed out. If I ever did that, I would feel sick. If I ever like tricked a bunch of people to think that I came up with a smooth line, when someone heckles me and I come up with something on the fly and it nails them, and then they look really stupid, that's like an art. There's an art to finding the right thing to say at the right time. We were in Ohio. We had this fucking dude took his shirt off, and he was standing in the crowd with his shirt off. I mean, it was you couldn't plant a better guy.
I think I saw that.
There's a video. The dude was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
And Brian
yeah.
and I saw him hours later, like after the show. I mean, I hugged the guy and everything. I mean, he wasn't a violent guy, but someone decided to like take advantage of the fact that he was this loud guy, and they beat the shit out of him. We found him when we were getting to our car at like 2 o'clock in the morning. We were leaving Steak and Shake, right? We had ate,
Yeah.
and we got to our car, and this dude was fucked up, man. His eyes bloody, blood coming all over his fucking all over his clothes. Somebody just beat the shit out of him, man. And-
What?
For heckling?
Yeah, well, probably
crazy.
this is the guy. Look,
Yeah,
the guy's
yeah,
got
I
no
remember
shirt on
that.
in the
I remember
audience. He's
I've seen that.
Voodoo, sir. We're all here to have a good time.
He was doing voodoo with his
I'm gonna
fingers.
tell you this because I love you. I love you too. I love you too. But I'm gonna tell you this. You are that guy. Is he that guy?
that is that guy personified. He's got no shirt on. Fucking dude's. I wish we got the video of him fucked up later in the
Afterwards,
night.
yeah.
We should.
Beaten
Goddamn.
to like a
No.
bloody pulp.
Because it would have been so perfect, the perfect way to end that video. Somebody just tuned him up. It was a free shot because he was so drunk. They could take advantage of it. You guys got to leave. We got to wrap this thing up anyway. We're running out of time.
Like 5-10 minutes.
I wanted to ask you one thing before we go. We only have 5 minutes left, but you specialize like in ancient history, and you're really a big fan of like ancient cultures. Have you paid attention to any of this Göbekli Tepe shit that they're finding in Turkey?
What, the Ark?
No. Göbekli Tepe is a new structure that they found. There was like a cattle herder or something like that, found this stone and uncovered it, like kicked some dirt around on it, and then started digging around it and then realized it's massive. Called in some people. They found out that the whole area had been filled with dirt on purpose at the very earliest 12,000 years ago.
Right.
So it's at least 12,000 years old, and that's when it was covered. That's when it was filled in. and it's this huge, gigantic structure,
like a ziggurat.
All these there's some images of what they've discovered so far. Why are fucking images loading so slow? What is it? 1990? Is this a fucking GeoCities website? There's gigantic 19-foot tall stone columns. They have these reliefs, 3D reliefs of these animals that are drawn on it. But this whole thing throws the origins or the dates of civilization into a kind of a chaotic situation because it's so old. It's at a time where they thought people were just basically hunter and gatherers, and these hunter and gatherers created these enormous stone structures. This really complex thing, like all those carvings on it. And these are 3D reliefs, meaning that they took the stone away, they cut it away to make this image. They didn't carve it into the stone, which would be the easy way to do it. They carved the stone out and left the three-dimensional image of these, animals. And they've only uncovered 5% of it so far, and it's fucking enormous. Enormous stone structure that was covered up. So they know for a fact that...
And this is in central Turkey.
It's in it's an area called Göbekli. Göbekli Tepe. I don't know.
I know that the
what part of Turkey
there was a civilization called the Hittites that lived in central Turkey, and they had this site Hattusha. And what I think is interesting about that is that it was totally miles and miles away from water. In other words, most of these civilizations take place near some sort of river, near some sort of stream. But the ironic thing about this civilization is it existed for thousands of years in Turkey, and yet there was no water that was physically near it. It was like 50 miles away. So you're going to tell me every single day someone rode 50 miles to get water? And they were saying what was going on was probably that there was an internal spring that allowed for there to be water inside a city for it to flourish to the level it did.
Could be they also had irrigation back then, too.
Right. Well, that is one suggestion, but they didn't have an aqueduct similar to the way people look at them in Roman times. I guess they may have diverted water through a stream or by damming a river. But whatever the case may be, is I think people are going to start finding more and more of these things as time progresses. And I think what we're talking about also is that not just on land, but also on sea. You know what I mean? In the sea. When you go underwater, people found recently that there were ancient Egyptian civilizations or people in the Mediterranean that had existed for like 3,000-4,000 years that have been buried. Because in reality, there were probably plenty of places that were above sea level, 10,000 years ago.
Oh, no question about it. The tide, or rather the ocean's levels, have risen and fallen. No doubt, no question.
But besides rap, I started writing a book recently. And in one of them, I'm specifically going to be able to deal with this specific fact and the history of humankind that is severely underwritten. I mean,
you're writing a history book?
It's not a history book. It's more like a book of It's more like a book of philosophies. You know what I mean? And it's a little humorous. You know what I mean? Because I want to show people the sort of perpetual hypocrisy that we're willing to live in.
That people have always lived in?
Always. I mean, but not only that we live in, but that we're willing to live in. It reminds me of a quote from Mark Twain where he's like, the difference between writing fiction and writing reality is that you have to make reality seem believable. Because it's so preposterous that you have to include some sort of element that brings it home. Similar to the way that a comedian will criticize society and then talk about how fucked up it is, and at the end of it say, hey, well, guess what? I'm just as fucked. You know how I know it's this fucking bad? Because I'm part of this fucked up society. And that's the ironic part of the joke. That, you know what I mean? Oh, no, the Coke is so bad and I'm going to go get a Coke now. So fuck all the rest of you. Because that's just how it is. I think that when you look at civilizations and human development, you find just a series of pure savagery, and then you find ennoblement in strange and almost irreconcilable places within that society. So when I look at them over the course of human evolution, I really wanted to address that and the fact that, yes, we're a civilization of talking monkeys that have achieved some sort of growth over the years, whether it's through grooming, because we place a gigantic amount of value on how we're groomed. We place a gigantic amount of value on our superstitions. In other words, if I believe something and you don't believe the same thing, I'm threatened by your belief system. Not you or me specifically, but in terms of how we communicate and how we've communicated over the years. Now, has that always been a positive thing? or has it always been a negative thing? Well, when we were dividing ourselves among different actual races like Homo erectus or Homo habilis, then maybe it was a positive thing to not include these people in our society or these animals or hominids in our society, because it would have created a much different strand of humanity.
Dude, you need a podcast of your own. Shit's ridiculous. We're running out of time, man. The Immortal Technique podcast launching next month.
Holy shit!
Just start with an iPhone. Start talking into it when you're at the airport. Record that shit.
I got the book coming out, The Middle Passage. Shout to the whole Rebel Arms.
Yeah, follow him, Immortal Tech on Twitter. And guys, what are your Twitter handles?
Bobby Bout It at Twitter.
At Chino. Hold on, spell that. What is Bobby Bout It?
BOBBY Bout It BOUTIT.
Boom.
At twitter.com.
Boom.
At Chino XL at Twitter and at Chino XL at Instagram.
Thank you very much.
Also, liftedstateapparel.com.
Thanks to LegalZoom.com. Use the code word Rogan at checkout. Save yourself some cash. Thanks also to 1-800-FLOWERS. That's 1-800-FLOWERS. Thank you to Onnit. Use the code word Rogan and save 10% off any and all supplements. All right, we will see you tomorrow with artist Molly Crabapple, and then we have on Wednesday War Machine, and on Thursday Joey Coco Diaz.
Let's go.
Much love. See you fucker soon.
Let's do it. Peace. Throw a heckler in the crowd.